end of time.
O'clock.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Wednesday night. What's the matter with your shit?
Okay,
okay, you
now.
got it.
Yeah, there was something else that was opened that is just it's like a card for this show, but it's frozen.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. So
You got it though. You're fine.
Everything's
You're
working
fine.
now. Yeah, I got
You're
the
fine.
damn command module is fucking operational. Yeah, the command module.
this rickety operation
Yeah.
we've got over here.
I'm gonna call this shit a command module.
Yeah, that does make it sound a lot
Yeah.
cooler, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It said, "Oh, you guys are a minute late." I know because Tom was showing me like a trailer for a movie, and I was just like, we got to go on. Come on, we were sitting here, but you know what I
It's
mean."
in a trailer for that movie, the A24 movie Civil War.
Yeah, because he was trying to show me this actor that I
Yeah,
was
got
just
big
kinda
glasses.
Like, and I was like, shit, because I know who it is, but I can't think of his name right now. But yeah, so we had a whole discussion about Steve Buscemi before the thing, and then we got off on that.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. You know how that goes.
Yeah, we might do a Steve Buscemi marathon.
Because we were discussing like why it is that Steve Buscemi, despite not being conventionally attractive, is yet somehow super sexy. And I'm not the only woman that says that. Like a lot of women do.
I don't know if he's a good-looking ugly guy or an ugly good-looking guy.
Like I said, I wouldn't call him ugly.
It's just he's just kind of
he's kind of funny looking.
He's got a funny look, and
he's also kind of hot at the same time.
He can make fucking goofy faces, and that's really what you remember him. You remember him doing these goofy ass faces. There's a lot of photographs of him in other movies where he's like serious. That motherfucker looks gangster as shit when he wants to. You know, everything about his face.
He looks like he's about to lay down some fucking serious knowledge.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I've always liked him. And we saw like an old picture of him when he was real young, like when he was in his firefighter's uniform, and I was like, oh, I would have been all over that when I was that age.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of my best friend Mike Kowalski.
He was like he was cute, but like kind of in a nerdy way, and I was kind of like, oh, I'm all into that. I like that. So yeah, it seems like a lot of people here have not heard about this incident, and that we're going to talk about on the show tonight, which is good because this is. I had not heard of this either, which is crazy because I'm all about the unsolved mysteries and shit. But somebody recommended, it might have been Xanada actually, because he sent me a like a documentary about it earlier. There's actually kind of a lot of documentaries about this on YouTube, but I feel like a lot of people haven't heard of this one, even though everybody's heard of like Dyatlov Pass, right?
Yeah.
I would argue maybe this one's weirder. Like it's kind of similar. Well, it's kind of similar, but. I don't know. I think it's weirder.
I really know nothing about it. I just overheard some of the details, but I didn't catch the very beginning of it. So I'm with you guys in this one. I'm just gonna listen to Jen and try to come up with.
I think this one's weirder.
Yeah, I already knew with Dyatlov Pass. I know what that.
Yeah,
was.
I feel like I mean, when we talk about Dyatlov Pass, I feel like everybody knows, and it's like, it's weird the way that ended up, and we did a show about it a while back. I'm pretty sure that was an avalanche.
Yeah, and cold weather. They died of cold weather too.
Right,
it might have been
right.
One thing. They might have thought there was an avalanche
or something like that. I think it was just some kind
swamped.
of natural disaster.
But the crazy shit they were doing at Dyatlov Pass, you know, and I've been fucking cold as fuck up in Korea, sub-zero weather, hallucinating. You know, me and other guys, you know, bad hypothermia happening. When you get hypothermic, you go crazy.
You do all kind of crazy shit. Yeah.
You're having hallucinations. You think you're hot. You start taking your clothes off.
Yeah, paradoxical undressing. Yeah, they call that.
Right. And I got hallucinating one time. I just started walking off, and my friend Chafino, luckily he was warm enough to fucking go. Wait a minute, where's he going? And he ran down there and got me. He says, "Where you going, man?" I said, "I'm going to McDonald's." And he goes, "Dude, we're in Korea." And I said, it's
like
right
in
over
the
there.
middle of the woods.
I said, it's right over there. And I pointed to the top of the hill. Over that was the fucking the DMZ to Korea. I said, it's over there. See the lights? And he goes, dude, man, you got to get back in bed.
I see the golden arches.
Get back in the...
I want some coffee.
Yeah, get back in the...
and hash brown.
Wasn't in bed. It was the sleeping bag. Give it in the bag, man. I was like, yeah.
You would have frozen to death if nobody saw you.
I just kept on walking. Yeah, I was going to go to McDonald's and get some coffee. I forgot that I was in the Army.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cold weather does weird shit.
Yeah.
To your brain.
I was living in. It was like kind of like it reminded me of sleep paralysis. You know where you can see the room, but you see other things in the room that aren't there at the same time. Your dream material is right in with what your eye is seeing.
Right.
You know, it's like that. That's what hypothermia is like. Your hallucinations are being kind of superimposed over reality.
Yeah, it's kind of like having like sleep paralysis, I guess, but like you're awake, you know.
Right, you're awake.
Yeah, which is fucked up.
And I wasn't cold, which that was very dangerous.
Yeah, well, that's
fucking,
why, like, people with hypothermia, that's, you know, paradoxically, that's why they call it that. They start taking their clothes off because they start feeling hot, which is...
I don't remember feeling hot, but I didn't feel cold.
Right.
And I didn't have my jacket on, just got out of sleeping bag, started walking. And
see, that's always dangerous. That's all. It's kind of like kind of like opposite when you're having a heat stroke.
Yeah.
When it's dangerous is when you don't feel hot anymore.
Yeah.
Then it's
just
knows that it's gotten really bad.
He's like, hey Ross, and I just kept walking down, and I was walking down where the fucking sector we were watching with rifle fire, so he knew I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. He ran down there and got me.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's a good thing he did, because you probably would have just wandered off and frozen to death.
Yeah, he knew me real well. We went to basic together.
And they wouldn't have known what happened.
Yeah, they wouldn't know what happened. They would have found me.
Never even have met you.
Yeah, they'd have found me up in some mountain somewhere frozen. How'd he get here?
Been like, what the fuck is going on? It would have been a mystery, and people would have been talking about you on YouTube all these years later. You know what I mean? That's crazy.
Bitch, I was going to McDonald's.
I wanted
I could see the lights right over the top of the
fucking Egg McMuffin.
Yeah.
That's so wrong?
Yeah, I was like, it's right over there. He goes, dude, we're in Korea. There's no McDonald's over there. And I was like, oh, yeah. That's right. And it took me right to the, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird.
Zach was saying that the same thing that Steve Buscemi has, same thing with Willem Dafoe. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Willem Dafoe is also hot as fuck.
Yeah.
And Jack Nicholson. Yeah, Jack Nicholson much hotter when he was younger, even though he was funny looking. Not so much now that he's an old dude, but you know.
Yeah.
And Tammy said, "Have you ever heard of the twin flame cult?" I don't think I ever have. I need a piece of paper though, because I want to write that down so I can put it in a poll. I forgot I put paper over here. Usually I would do that, but okay, I'm gonna write that down so I can put that in there.
If you see Jack Nicholson in any of his movies when he was real young, though, he was a good-looking guy. Just that he was just prematurely bald. That was the weird thing about him.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And he didn't hide it. He just said, "Fuck it, I'm bald."
Hit the desk.
Got that fucking crazy ass fucking balding. Bald by the time he was 30.
Yeah, he was bald real young. Yeah, Xanada said Steve Buscemi looked good when he was a firefighter. He did, yeah. And James Knapp said he has heard of this case, and it said it is weirder than Dyatlov Pass. See, I thought it was too.
All right.
And Xanada said this is a strange damn case. I have my own theories. I do too, but we'll get into that at the end.
Dyatlov Pass was hypothermia, and people trying to save the people who had succumbed to hypothermia, and then eventually the hypothermia got them. They all had basically the same equipment, so they all started to go down around the same time.
Yeah.
So, wind chill got them, I think.
Yeah, like I said, and whether it was a real avalanche or they just thought it was an avalanche, I think that was what caused them to cut their way out of the tents. And
one dude probably started hallucinating, avalanche, and fucking ran out of the fucking tent, and people fucking followed.
And then they panicked, maybe.
Panicked and followed, but then they had to get him out of the tree because they were running up trees and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Elizabeth said, "Is this the case where they started getting sick?" Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's what kind of happened. Somebody said, "Did you guys watch the show where Steve Buscemi investigates his family history?" No. I have not, but now I have to see that.
That name kind of sounds Czechoslovakian, or not Czechoslovakian.
No, what? Where Steve Buscemi?
Yeah, I guess that's Italian.
Investigating his family history. Yeah, okay.
Italian. Yeah, but he looks kind of Polish or something.
I don't know.
He looks Slovakian.
I mean, I'm assuming that's his real last name.
Yeah, it may not be.
Yeah, Xanada said a lot of these cool Russian cases are filtering out in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one, I mean, as with any case that comes out, and this happened in the Dyatlov Pass case too, where it's just kind of like, oh, they were murdered by the KGB or whatever. And this one has some of those theories as well. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe I'm jumping ahead. I'm not sure I buy it. Now, I will say that it could be that they died as a result of Russian military stuff, but not on purpose. That's all I'm going to say about it. But we'll get into
it's cool that now that the Soviet Union's gone, for you youngsters, you have no idea what the fuck we're talking about. But now that the Soviet Union's gone, everything's about it. We're starting to find out more about it. And me growing up in a military academy and then being in the military and being on duty when the Berlin Wall fell and then the Soviet Union collapsed. I saw all that from inside the military machine as it was going on. And the Soviet Union was far more interesting than we thought it was, because, man, you couldn't get any information about it. Just rumors. We'd see, fantastic MiGs, tanks, rumors of how big their military was, rumors about how good-looking Russian girls were. Turned out that was true. A lot of stuff about it was true. I found out that a lot of things that we were told in the military and just in American society were not true about the Soviet Union. Just little stuff. The details were wrong. We didn't realize how in the end their mentality was a lot like Americans. They were real skeptical of what was going on. There were years of fucking strikes happening and resistance, and then the fucking thing fell apart overnight. Military just vanished. Our military was doing stuff on the down low with the Russian military to get nuclear weapons safe, and man, it was weird. Go to Fort Campbell and you see Russian Hind helicopters and Russian equipment there mysteriously. I guess they were just giving it to us, but they were running around and I guess testing it and using it, trying to figure out if it was any good or not. Weird. SF was involved with all that, Special Forces. But it's all starting to leak of how their system was set up, and even find out about their serial killers, and then these weird cases like this. Yeah.
And this, like I said, this is super weird. I think. I mean, I think I know. Well, I'm not gonna say I think I know what happened, but I have my favorite theory about all the theories that happened.
But I can figure it out.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, just let me lay out all the shit.
I'm gonna let you lay it out first.
Because I know how you tend to just jump to stuff after I only say 2 facts, and I'm like, dude, I have a million more facts. You know what I mean? Zach says, by the way, have y'all ever done a show on the Isdal woman case from Norway? Yes, yeah. I think we did. It might have been an espionage one.
Yeah.
I think we did a show about Isdal woman and Somerton man a long time ago. Because remember, I think we did another show on Somerton man recently because he was identified.
Was Isdal the girl that was dead out on the campsite?
Yeah, and she was burned.
Yeah, and all the
and then they found all the stuff back in the hotel room that had all those wigs and passports and stuff.
East Germans.
Oh, she was for sure a spy. Yeah.
Most spies are female, or that kind of situation. They're female, and they're sex operatives. They try to talk their way into these guys that have information. They start sleeping with them, and then they sell the girl information. They usually know what she is. Sometimes they don't, though. Sometimes they don't.
Sometimes they're that
sometimes
stupid.
They just, sometimes they think they're really their girlfriend. But no, it isn't.
Yeah, so James Knapp said, yeah, I'm on the same track for what I said about what I think this might have been. I mean, just from what I don't know. I have theories about it. Let's see. And then they were saying episode 5 was the Isdal woman one.
Okay,
yeah. And Jen says, I don't know this case. I didn't know about it either until Xanada said about it. But like I said, there are a bunch of other videos about it that are super interesting.
What was the other case of the East German sex operative? The girl that was found dead was it in a hotel or was it in a bar?
That happened in Oslo, I think. Yeah. I can't remember what year it was. I just saw the beginning of a video about it yesterday because it came on after something. Yeah, I don't remember.
70s or 60s?
I thought it was 60s, but it could have been later.
I
don't remember if we did a show about that, but I think there was. Did we see an Unsolved Mysteries or some shit like that about that case? That was pretty weird too.
Saw British material on it. It was from the BBC, I think, back in the day.
Yeah.
And their investigator when they found her, they found her dead. She had a 9mm pistol.
Yeah.
I think it was a Browning high power actually. I think it's been a long time. And this British guy, knows nothing about guns evidently. He says, well, she wouldn't have been having that for self-defense. You don't need that kind of gun for self-defense. I'm like, go tell fucking millions of Americans everybody's carrying a 9 here. He didn't know what he was talking about. I guess he thought that for self-defense you carry things that are smaller. 9mm for warfare or something. You don't never go to war with a pistol, man. It's always going to be something like a missile or a tank, an assault rifle. But I remember he threw that out and I go, man, that fucker's tripping. They gave her a fucking clean weapon. That's what they did. A weapon that couldn't be traced. It happened to be 9mm. Women have carried them forever. They carry them in fucking holsters, and you can conceal one.
Juan says, happy Wednesday, you two. How are you? We're awesome. How are you doing? And Xana said, yeah, it was Isdal Woman, Somerton Man, and Number Stations, one of your first episodes. Yeah, we did like an espionage show. That was a fun show. We should maybe do a revisit on that. But, you know, if there's updates in the case and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think Number Stations are a thing of the past now.
Well, yeah. But there, a lot of people think they were creepy. And we talked about what they probably were on there, which it's not that mysterious, but they are still pretty creepy.
Yeah, internet has gotten rid of all that. And cell phones.
Tequilip says, I'd be over the moon if y'all did a show on Marjorie Congdon and the Glen Sheen murders here in MN. That's Minnesota, right? Is that Minnesota or Montana?
I don't know.
I think that's Minnesota. It's Montana is MO, I think. All those M states, man. I always like forget.
What's the case?
Marjorie Congdon and the Glen Sheen murders.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that either.
Okay.
So yeah, I wrote it down though.
Okay.
I'm putting it on. I have a huge list still of shit that we'll never get around to. But you know what I mean? We'll probably get around to that one of these days. Xana said, I don't want to spoil anything, but I think me and Jenny came to the same conclusion. Yeah, we probably did. I mean, it seems like the most likely. There's other shit that could have happened, but like the most likely thing, we'll figure it out. Yeah, the girl that checked in under the last name Fairgate, I think. Yeah.
I think that's that same girl.
Yeah, like I said, I was just reminded of it like the other day because I was actually watching a video about this case, and the channel had done a video about that case that came on after. I just didn't watch it all.
I think the Fairgate girl killed herself, didn't she?
Well, they said that she did, but it almost seemed like, well, they said that she did, but wasn't it something like, well, she would have had to hold the gun just like that, which seemed a little unlikely. But you know, I mean, you can, but you know, they just thought it was a little bit weird. Elizabeth said, have we done the Springfield 3? I don't remember if we did. I thought we did, but I'd have to look back. And, you know, how can... Wait a minute. I can't see because that little heart is in the way. How can I send you a book on it? Oh, you could actually, if you really wanted to, just message me on Facebook or Instagram. Probably Facebook would be better because Instagram, sometimes I don't see them. And I'll give you the home address if you want, because that would be cool if you send me a book about it. But yeah, so do you want to get into this?
Yeah, let's hear about
case because I'm sure you'll have theories about it. There's lots of theories at the end, and I have them all like in a list, in a numbered list. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we got people there.
Yeah, so we can get started.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, most people have heard of Dyatlov Pass, but I think maybe people haven't heard of this one as much. And this one, to me, I think is weirder. So this happened in August of 1993. So not as long ago, because Dyatlov Pass was 1959, right? So this was like a lot more recent. So here's the thing. It's usually called the Khamar-Daban Incident. Khamar-Daban is the name of the mountain range where it happened. But it's also called the Korovina or Korovina Incident, which is the last name of the woman that was the leader of the group. You know what I mean? So this woman's name is, and I know I'm going to pronounce all these names wrong, so I apologize. But her name was Lyudmila Korovina. And she was 41 years old. And she was a hiking instructor, very, very experienced, very... well-known like in the area. She was also like a survivalist, so she was like a teacher. She had like a lot of pupils and stuff like that, and she would take them out on these hikes and teach them survival stuff and everything like that, and had attained the level, I don't know if it was official, but a lot of her students and stuff like that like called her master. She was like master level, you know what I mean? Now, one of the things that she was known for that some people complained about, but her students mostly didn't, she was kind of known as being maybe a little bit of a hard ass. I think she would have called it tough love, because she would pretty much like push them to their limits. You know what I mean? And a lot of her students, as we'll see in this particular incident, were teenagers. You know what I mean? So sometimes I think that there were some parents of the students that thought that she was pushing the kids too hard. It doesn't seem like her students ever complained, though. They liked it, and really, like, a lot of her students said she was a great teacher and really, like, changed their lives, like, for the better. Like, taught them confidence and, like, taught them how to survive and, you know, it just made them good at everything. You know what I mean? So a lot of them, like, really appreciated her. So she was seen as, like, being a really good teacher who really, like, knew her shit. You know what I mean? So the summer of 1993, Lyudmila had planned this hiking trip with 6 of her students, and they were going to go into the Khamar-Daban mountain range, which is not too far. Where they were heading off from was not too far from Irkutsk, and like real close to like the Mongolian border, right? Now, she had been to this area before, was pretty familiar with it, and this area where they were hiking was not remote. It was actually a real popular tourist spot and considered real safe for hikers. Even, like, there were different trails of different difficulties and stuff, obviously, but there was a lot of trails there for, like, beginner hikers and stuff like that. So it wasn't considered, like, dangerous or anything like that, and there was just, like, always people around. Especially in the summertime, which this was. And at this particular time that they were going on the hike, there was actually something called the Turiata Tourism Festival going on. So there were even more like tourists and hikers and canoers and kayakers and stuff like that in the area than there normally would be. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is this wasn't a case of like some hikers going into this fucking wilderness where nobody was. Like there was just tons of people around. This was a real popular area. So her students had actually planned with her for this trip, trained for the trip for like 6 months, like prior to them going. And these were all students that she had known for quite a long time. So they were all quite close. Now, the first of the 6, which was probably like the closest to her, I feel like, was a 23-year-old man named Alexander Krisin, who was actually known as Sasha. Now, he actually, I believe that he started doing classes with her when he was 12. So they had like a mother-son kind of relationship. Like she really considered him like a second kid, you know what I mean? Pretty much. Because she'd known him for like half his life. So the other 5 were, you had a 24-year-old woman named Tatiana Filipenko, who was actually the least experienced. She had been on some hikes before, but nothing of this magnitude. 19-year-old Denis Shvakin. He was actually only going because somebody else had dropped out, like at the last minute, and he had wanted to go really badly. So at the last minute, they were like, hey, there's a spot. Do you want to do it? Because he was like the second or whatever. And he just like left a note for his parents. And it's like, hey, I'm going to the mountains. Bye. You know what I mean? Which is kind of sad because, spoiler alert, he didn't make it. So yeah, actually none of these people made it except for one. So you also had 17-year-old Valentina Utochenko, who was sometimes called Valya. And you had a 16-year-old Victoria Valasova and a 15-year-old named Timur Bapanov. Like I said, most of them were experienced hikers. Some of them had never been on a hike this strenuous before, but all of them had been on ones like going up to this level. So this was going to be a challenge for them. They had been training for it for 6 months and everything like that. They knew their shit, like I said. So, even the ones that were younger. So they get to this village called Marino, like at where the kind of the trailhead was, on August 2nd, 1993. So the particular itinerary that they were planning on following was considered, now I've seen different sources on this. Some said, because I think in this area, like, how they have like levels of difficulty, like for the hiking trails. Some sources I saw said that this trail they were on was a 3, which is like medium difficulty. But some of them said it was a 4, which is a strenuous difficulty. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's just like a 4-step, so this was like the hardest. I've heard it was like 1 step down from the hardest. So like strenuous, but not the worst. You know what I mean? So I'm not really sure. But it was, it was challenging, not for beginners, is basically what they were saying. Now, they had checked the weather reports, like as you do, before this. And the forecasts had been, the weather was supposed to be perfect. Like it was supposed to be sunny, temperatures were supposed to be higher than average. Maybe it would rain a little bit, but that was it. It was supposed to be clear skies. It was supposed to be like amazing, right? Now, interestingly, there were 2 other hiking groups in the same area that Lyudmila's group was doing. One of these groups was actually led by Lyudmila's daughter, whose name was Natalia, who was 16. So, like, she had grown up doing this kind of stuff. So she was leading her own groups now. So she was taking a different trail than her mom's group. Now, what they had planned to do was that both of them were taking a different itinerary, but they were going to meet up like a few days in, like on August 5th, and then they were going to do the rest of the trek together, right? Spoiler alert, that's not what happened. But you know what I mean? That's what they were supposed to do. So her daughter was out there in the same area as her, and there was another group out there too who I don't think were related in any way, but they were also out there. So they get started on the hike, start going up the mountain. First couple days went amazing. They were like even way better than they were expecting. Like the weather was amazing. Like they made really, really good time. They got farther than they thought they were going to get, all this other kind of stuff. So they get up to this one peak whose name I can't even begin to pronounce. You know what I mean? Some of these Russian names I'm going to have a hard time. So that went fine. However, on August the 4th, as they started going down like the other side of the mountain, it turned out that this weather forecast that they had gotten was complete bullshit. Because there was an unexpected storm. Some called it, I've seen it, some called like a, what do they call it? Not a tornado, but a, what's that other fucking word that they say over there? Shit, now I can't remember the word for it.
Blizzard?
No, not blizzard. It wasn't snow necessarily. Well, there was a little bit of snow, but it wasn't exactly like that. Like I said, this is summer. It's the top of the mountains. There is kind of snow up there, but yeah. But it was a bad storm. So it was like days and days, like days of heavy rain. There was some snow, horrible, like gale force winds, like so hard that like some of the trees were like knocked down. You know what I mean? Some of the other hikers that were in the area, because like I said, there was a lot of people around, said that there was like real bad fog. They called it sticky fog. You know what I mean? Which that should tell you something right there. So the weather was like real bad is what I'm saying. And the forecasts in no way had predicted this. So they were kind of like, well, shit, okay, this isn't great, you know? So on this day, they're kind of like going through all this weather and they're like, holy crap, this like really sucks. You know what I mean? It like obviously really slowed them down, right? So they stopped for the night at about 4 p.m. It had started raining really hard. All of their gear was wet. So, everything was heavier so they were all really tired from like carrying it. And the tents they had were also kind of wet and, so they tried to like set up. They couldn't make a fire for a while because everything was wet, like I said. Now, interestingly, the place where they stopped, and a lot of people have kind of brought this up as being odd. The place where they stopped to camp was kind of like, and there's photos of it, because there's some photos of the expedition that they took. Seemed like it was kind of like a big open field. And some people are like, well, they were experienced hikers and experienced survivalists. Why didn't they go like under the tree cover? Or, saying, well, like, why did they set up camp like in the middle of this open field, like when in this shitty weather? I'm not really sure why. And it turns out, too, I'm not sure if they entirely knew this, but about a 30-minute walk from where they had stopped, there was like a little shelter type thing that they had built like for hikers and stuff that had like a little, it was kind of rudimentary, let's call it that, but it did have kind of a little shitty looking cabin and like might have had some firewood and shit like that where you could get in there and like get out of the weather. So I don't know if they just didn't know if that was there, or they were just like, fuck it, we're too tired to walk that far, or because I think it was something like 2 kilometers away or something like that. So maybe they were just like, fuck it, we're just going to stop here. Some people have also speculated maybe the map they had wasn't accurate and it didn't have it on it or something like that, but nobody really knows. But for whatever reason, they stopped and camped out in this essentially like an open field. Now, despite the hardships that they had this day, like with this horrible weather that was not in any way expected, they did kind of seem in good spirits regardless. They kind of had some food and like sat around as like, man, we made really good time and we're doing really good and shit like that. They didn't seem like super bummed out or anything, because like I said, they were all experienced hikers. They had been through shit like this before, so it wasn't that big of a deal to them. So they kind of managed to fall asleep a little bit. At 4 a.m, the wind, which like I said was really bad, it actually snapped all the tent ropes, because I think they were all in 2 tents that were like the driest ones. And it snapped the tent ropes on one of those, so they all had to wake up and like go fix that. And then when they all got back in, the wind tore out the stakes from the other tent. So so they didn't really get much sleep, is what I'm saying, because all of this fucking shit was going on, and the weather was just getting shittier and shittier. And then when they woke up the following morning, apparently everything was covered with snow, even though it's fucking August. So after that, we will return to what happened to that party afterward. But let's jump ahead a little bit. So Natalia, Lyudmila's daughter, who, as I said, was leading her own group, and they were supposed to meet up on August 5th. So Natalia and her gang, they get to the meeting place on August 5th, like they're supposed to, right on time. But Natalia's mom and her group were not there. Now, Natalia later said that she was not alarmed. She's like, hey, my mom is a master survivalist and master hiker. We've been through shit like this before. It's like, I'm sure it's fine. She's like, the weather was shitty, so it probably just slowed them down. It's not that big of a deal. So her and the group just went on ahead and said, yeah, we'll just meet up like back at the base of the mountain or whatever, and everything will be fine.
What they're doing ain't easy.
No.
People who've never been hiking. If I was infantry, and we do a very similar kind of thing. We're mostly hiking. I was airborne infantry. They drop you off in a helicopter, and the rest of it's you're hiking. I also hiked up in Yosemite. All right, and Smoky Mountains also. The chances are they're carrying at least 40 pounds worth of equipment, and
likely, yeah.
And a 40-pound pack to a person who's never carried a pack before, and then you try to climb up fucking mountains and walk around 10, 15, maybe 20 miles a day. That will fucking smoke your legs. The next day you wouldn't be able to walk.
I will note that I think the hike they were on was maybe 4 or 5 days planned, and I think it was like 140 miles. Or so. It was a long way.
That's pretty good.
It was a long way.
Yeah, and they're carrying packs. I mean, my shit would get up to 110 pounds worth of equipment, which is the pack. And I was carrying an M60 at the time. Carried ammo, snow gear, fucking what's called an ice bag. That had all our fucking NBC, or nuclear, biological, and chemical suit was in that. 4 pair of fucking boots, shit tons of fucking gloves, and then all that food, and then water. Water weighs a lot. So they're probably carrying a lot of weight. They're at least carrying 40 pounds apiece. I think it's probably safe that they're carrying. Probably safe to say that they started out with 60 to 80 pounds.
They probably did for a several day hike.
Right. And then as they eat, it gets lighter, and as they drink, it gets lighter. And no, you can't drink snow. If you were to melt snow, there's not enough water in there to get a drink. If you have a big fire going, you can eventually get some water, but you can't just eat snow and. Oh yeah, it's like
please
drinking.
Don't do that.
No,
that's a bad idea.
No, if you a whole handful of snow is really only a couple drops of water when it melts. So yeah, they're tired, and usually you're not talking. You're silent, and you're usually in a staggered ranger file or a straight line, depending on what the terrain's like. And there's going to be a distance in between each hiker. It doesn't sound like they're using lines to connect each other in case somebody falls. That's more mountaineering.
Yeah, these mountains were not. I mean, they're high, but they're not.
Right.
I saw I saw them on Google Earth and stuff. They're not like super craggy where you'd be like climbing up sheer rock faces or anything.
Chances are they're spaced out 10 meters each, 5 meters each. And there's usually never any conversation going on. It's just this droning walk through the wilderness. And your mind goes kind of numb, almost like what long haul truckers get with white line fever. You start to lose your fucking mind, especially if it's real cold or real hot. So that's just giving you guys some background, personal experience, and a background on what these hikers are starting to experience by this time. They're starting to experience fatigue.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that this part of the world in this time of year, which, like I said, it was summer, it was August. So it wasn't cold up there. It wasn't hot either. And the thing about it is because, Jen said typhoon. Maybe that was the word I was thinking. I wasn't sure.
Typhoon is the same as a hurricane, though.
I know, but I know that they had like a different.
Yeah,
I just can't remember. I saw a documentary about it and they used a word and I was like, maybe it was typhoon, but I can't remember what it was. But yeah, so because of the rain and the winds, it was like actually much colder than they were predicting, but still not like top of Mount Everest cold. You know what I'm saying? So Cold, but not that cold.
And just because it's cold doesn't mean that they're not sweating to death. You'd sweat and your socks would get fucking wet with sweat. And because it's cold, then they start to get really fucking chilly. And if you stop and don't change your socks, you can get frostbite because the water in your socks will start freezing up. So they're going through all this, but they got somebody who's experienced with them. They probably tell them to change socks every 6 hours.
Yeah, like I said, they were all, as
like
young as some of them were, they had all been on hikes before, and they were, like I said, this chick, and Xanada said, she was known for helping young men prepare for military training as well. This was a tough chick. Yeah, she knew her shit. And like I said, she was kind of like somebody that was very well known in the area for being like the best like hiking instructor, the best survivalist instructor, and shit like that. And all of her students loved her.
I recommend hiking if you're young, you want to learn skills. If you say, well, I don't want to join the military, but I want those kind of skills, one of the things you should do is join a hiking class. It can be in any terrain, desert, mountains, whatever. There's somebody out there teaching it. And they'll give you the survival skills for that terrain. And you say, well, that's kind of great. That's basically what the military does. That's
and I mean, it's good shit to know. You know what I mean? It's good shit to know.
Yeah, and each area has its own skill set. You know, like Rangers got to go fucking swamp, desert, and fucking swamp, desert, and what's the other one? Jungle. Oh no, swamp is jungle. I forgot the desert, and I forgot the other one was forest. I guess there's three different ones you have to do.
Not like snow mountains.
Yeah,
snowy mountains.
I don't think it was snow.
Because I feel like snowy mountains, you probably need to know that too, in case your plane crashes or some shit like that. Like those.
I know they had a desert phase.
Like those Chilean rugby players.
I know they had a desert phase and I know they had a jungle phase. I didn't go to that though. I just remembered that they had those two.
Yeah. But this one, like I said, and whatever the terrain is, obviously you have to like be specific to that terrain.
Right.
This one, like I said, it wasn't like an expedition to Everest type situation, but it was a similar, it's going to be cold, snowy mountains.
Yeah.
Is basically what this is. So, and this was considered, like I said, a pretty strenuous itinerary for this area. So, as I said, her daughter's team shows up at the meetup point, and her mom's team isn't there, but like I said, she's not worried about it. And she said later, yeah, we weren't worried about it. It had happened before. The weather was bad. They knew the weather was bad in that area, so they're like, oh, that probably just slowed them down. No biggie. We'll just keep on going and meet up with them later. You know what I mean? Okay. August 10th, 5 days later, there was a group of Ukrainian kayakers on the river, kind of at the foot of the Khamar-Daban mountain range. And while they were going down the river, they see something kind of over on the shore. They see this one young woman kind of standing and looking at them. According to some versions of the story, which I think is maybe exaggerated, that she had dried blood on her. Other versions of the story don't mention that, and I think that it probably wouldn't make much sense because it was days later at this point, and she probably would have washed herself in the river rather than having dried blood on her for 4 or 5 days. So I don't know if I believe that. That might be a later exaggeration, but some versions of the story say that, so I thought I would mention it. Now, the kayakers go up to her and say she either had like a white t-shirt or a sleeping bag like hanging on the tree, like as a little bit of a flag, you know what I mean? So people would notice it. So the kayakers, I think they passed her at first because she didn't call out to them like for help or anything. She just kind of like looked at them. And so they were like, okay, so they kept on going, but then they thought, that's pretty weird. Maybe we should go back and like see what's the matter. So they went back and asked her what was going on, and she just immediately started crying and like started to tell them some stuff. But what she was saying like sounded kind of, it was kind of broken up. Like they couldn't really tell what she was talking about. Now they eventually got out of her that this was Valentina Utochenko, the 17-year-old. And she told them that she had been in a group with 6 other people, but that they were all dead. So the kayakers at this point, they take her to the nearest police station so she could file a report. Now, at first, she was too traumatized to they couldn't really get out of her like what exactly had happened. It took a few days for her to like settle down. And once you like hear what happened, I'm sure you will understand that like, it took her a while to like fucking sort out her shit. You know what I mean? to tell them like what exactly for her to calm down enough to tell them exactly what had happened. So this is what she told them. She said that they got up that morning, like I said, the morning after the storm had like blown their tents around and everything, and they didn't get much sleep, and then they woke up and there was a bunch of snow and blah blah blah.
So they were only out 24 hours, or was it 48?
They were out. They left on the 2nd,
Mm-hmm.
and then the bad shit happened to them like over the night of the 4th and the 5th.
Okay, so they've been out there for 3 and 4 days.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they got up, and it's like they were kind of tired, but you know what I mean. They were gonna like make some time today. So they all ate breakfast together, and then they started descending the mountain, like following the itinerary, like toward the meetup point with Natalia. About 20 minutes after they started the trek, Sasha, the 23-year-old man, started screaming. He was in the rear of the group. Everybody turned around to look at him and noticed that he was frothing at the mouth, and there was blood coming out of his eyes and his ears. Some say his nose as well. Pretty much after a couple of seconds, he started convulsing and collapsed to the ground, and then went still, like, pretty quickly.
Huh. Sounds familiar. Okay, go ahead.
Lyudmila, who, like I said, was like a mom to him, freaked out, obviously, and ran back, like, to see what was the matter with him, like, picking it up and hugging him and trying to, like, wake him back up. Like, what happened? And they said she was really upset. Valentina, she goes up to Lyudmila, and Lyudmila told her, it's like, I can't hear a heartbeat. For whatever reason, Lyudmila ask Valentina, go get Victoria, like the other girl. But Valentina goes over to get Victoria. Victoria bit her. Okay? So Valentina's like, what the fuck, girl? Like, probably. And then kind of drags her back over to the others. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on right now. This is crazy. So then, probably like a minute or two later, Lyudmila starts screaming. Like, screaming for help. They all turn to look at her and notice that she was also frothing at the mouth and bleeding out her eyes and ears and nose. So they all rushed over, obviously, to help her, because they're like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on? And again, she started convulsing and then fell on top of Sasha.
These are kind of the symptoms so far. I know you said don't jump in before I know everything, but that sounds like the symptoms of what's a certain kind of chemical agent called blood agent. It's like a nerve agent. The Soviets had it. We knew that they had it.
Well, that's one of the theories. So like I said, don't jump ahead, because
Okay.
we're going to get into that later.
Okay, yeah. That's blood agent fucking denatured your fucking hemoglobin. Your blood turned into foam. And that's those are the symptoms of it.
Well, yeah,
Bleeding through the eyes and the mouth,
that's the
fucking
first thing I
convulsion.
thought the first time I read this. Well, like I said, that is one of the theories, so we'll get into
It's
that.
like a nerve agent, but it's different. It could defeat the valves in a mask. That's one of the, we know the service. It would eat it, the valves have a bunch of the masks have a bunch of valves in them. They have to open so you can inhale, and when you exhale, they seal up. All right. Well, those valves are very thin, and one of the characteristics of blood agent is that it would destroy those rubber, and thin rubber. It would eat it out, so the valves wouldn't work in your mask, and you'd breathe it in no matter what, even if you had the mask on. And that's how you died, way they're describing it. Not saying that's what it is, but I don't know where they got blood agent. It might be biological, I don't know. Which means maybe you can find that in nature. We'll see.
Yeah, like I said, we'll get into that, because like I have a big long thing about one of the theories that involves that. So the next person that was affected was Tatiana. She came over to Lyudmila to help her see what was going on, and pretty much as soon as she came over there, Valentina said she started like clutching at her throat, like she couldn't breathe, and then she said she crawled over to like a rock or a boulder nearby and started smashing her own head against it.
Yeah.
until she lost consciousness.
Well, she's malfunctioning.
Yeah. So, God, so like I said, I can't imagine like just seeing this happen in front of you when everything was normal 5 minutes ago. Right. That must have been like fucking horrible. Now, Dennis, one of the other guys, he's like, fuck this, and he ran and like hid behind a rock, and kind of getting into a sleeping bag that was back there. The other two, Timur and Victoria, they kind of like took off running. Valentina basically was just kind of standing there frozen for a second, like, what the fuck is actually happening, which is probably what I would be doing also. Now, Victoria and Timur, who had both kind of run away, but while they were running, they didn't get very far. They ran a little bit, and then they started tearing some of their clothes off, kind of having blood spewing out of their facial orifices, and kind of scratching at their throats. Like I said, like they couldn't breathe or like their throat was closing up. And then they basically just fell to the ground and stopped moving. At this point, Valentina and Dennis realize, well, we're pretty much the only two left standing, right? We need to get the fuck out of here. So they basically ran away. Sadly, Dennis didn't make it very far either. He ran a little way and then collapsed and started to convulse, just like the others had, like same symptoms. And at this point, Valentina is just kind of like, she doesn't know what's going on, but she's like, I need to get away from here, like right now, because obviously whatever it is in this area and I'm next. You know what I mean? So she just fucking took off running. The only thing that she had on her was the clothing she was wearing, and she had like a tent. That was it. So she just ran into the woods. And basically she came to a point where, you know, I don't remember how far it was exactly that she ran, but she ran like until she was like, I think I'm far enough away now. And then she just set up her tent, and she was exhausted, obviously, so she just like crashed and like fell asleep for a little while. Now, when she woke up several hours later, she made a very depressing realization, which is, all I have is a tent. And if I'm going to be stuck out here in the wilderness by myself, I'm going to need food and gear and shit like that. And I don't have any, so I'm going to have to go back to where all the people are dead and where maybe there's something that's killing them, and go back and get it, because I'm going to die otherwise.
Man, that's risky.
Yeah, but I mean, she thought, well, I don't have a choice. Like, I'm gonna die without it. She didn't have any food. She didn't have any water. She didn't have anything.
4 days out. She's 4 days out anyway. So
she wasn't entirely sure where she was. Like, she didn't have the map or anything like that.
See, to deliver any kind of like nerve agent or blood agent, it's gonna be in two different forms. It's gonna be a persistent agent or a non-persistent agent, depending on what it is the designers wanted. If it's non-persistent, it's usually some kind of a mist, maybe blown out of something like a crop duster, or out of an explosive shell, or a bomb lit that goes off at a certain altitude. It'll puff it out and it'll come down and it'll rain down in kind of like a mist. But it's non-persistent. A few hours later, you can go through that area and it's safe because it's neutralized itself. You can adjust it another way to make it persistent. You spray it down on things like foliage or roads, and it stays there. They have fixing agents. Usually it's like some kind of oil, and it might stay good for weeks or months. And it's kind of like a portable minefield, but it's a minefield it's semi-invisible, and it's been deployed by an aircraft or artillery shells. It looks good. You walk through it, you pick that stuff up, it gets on your, it's all on the branches, and the branches are hitting you, or they're hitting your pant leg, and over time the pant leg then rubs up against your skin, and it transfers into your skin, and it's just contact alone. You don't have to breathe it. Just enough contact, you'll absorb it through your skin, and it'll set off that damn chain reaction, especially if it's a nerve agent, And that's really made out of castor beans, really. Easy to make if you know what you're doing. There was a Japanese religious terrorist, made a bunch of it and let it go in the fucking Tokyo
subway.
Subway, kill a bunch of people, but they didn't really quite deliver it right. it was the first time they'd ever done it.
We never did show on that, did we?
Yeah, it killed a bunch of people, but they could have killed a lot more had they done it right, had they not delivered it. So what it sounds like, and just going off the top of my head, it sounds like somebody used some kind of blood agent, and it was a persistent form of it, which left it on the ground kind of like an invisible minefield. Usually it's like a little bit of oily looking, or maybe like droplets, or just a fucking shiny film, and they walked through it. The other one's got enough on him to kill him. For some reason, this girl, she either didn't walk through it, or she only got a little bit of it on her, or maybe it was just on the bottom of her shoes, and then she walked it off, and she was never contaminated. But if she goes back into that area to get supplies off those bodies, if it is some kind of persistent agent, she'd be lucky to survive it, because those bodies are going to be, and their clothing is going to be contaminated with that stuff. But she made it back, so
Yeah,
I guess
she's
that
still
was the
alive
problem.
as far as I know.
It sounds like a sophisticated nerve agent called blood agent, which is not quite a nerve agent, but it's what it sounds like.
Well, like I said, we'll get into that more like when I get into the theory section,
Okay.
because
All
we're
right.
still kind of in this, like I said. Yeah, Xana said, imagine how horrified you'd be. I can't imagine, like, what this fucking girl went
Yeah.
through. Seriously. And Xana said the fact that Valentina survived 3 days or whatever, I think it was 4 days, actually, by herself in the wilderness, is a feat on its own. Yeah, big time. So, yeah, so she makes the horrible decision, I'm going to have to go back and get some stuff, you know what I mean? Because I'm not going to survive out here by myself, because I'm not sure where I'm at. So she did it. She went back up to where that they had all died. Now, she saw that all of the people there, I mean, she checked, obviously, to make sure that they were not alive anymore, and they weren't. And basically, she's like, everyone was in the exact same position they had been when they had fallen. So they must have, like, died, like, immediately. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't...
It was fast acting.
Yeah, because she's like, they were all still in the same position, like, that she remembered them.
You said they were foaming at the mouth, a pink foam?
Well, I don't know.
Okay, usually pink
It
foam.
just said foaming at the mouth.
And then, blood coming out of the tear ducts sometimes, and out of the mucous membranes, the nose. Okay, but you said that some of them were doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Blood, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Bleeding from the ears, eyes, nose.
Blood agent denatures the hemoglobin in your cells. It ruptures the fucking cell wall, so your blood just turns into foam, and your blood pressure kind of goes up, but your heart really can't beat it because it's just foam. It's not liquid. And because it's gotten bigger, a bunch of fucking bubbles in it, gas bubbles, I guess, you start foaming at the mouth, and you start bleeding out of weird orifices. You can't breathe, then you die by suffocation, basically.
Thank you, Janet. That's really nice of you.
Thanks, Janet.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
I love the little cartoon there.
Yeah, because your blood's just become foam. Your heart can't pump it, and there's no red blood cells in there anymore. Anyway, they're all torn up. It's probably a bad way to go. Suffocation.
I mean, it
And
looked like a pretty bad way to go. At least it
Yeah.
was quick, it seemed like, but it looked like it was like super painful. Though.
Yeah, well, you would start glitching out. Your brain would start glitching out. You go into convulsions, like you said, thrashing around, beating your head against rocks and stuff.
Well, like I said, one of the other girls bit her
Just
as
bit
well. Like, bit her.
Yeah, kind of like a rabies type reaction.
Yeah,
type
and
of
some
rage.
people have wondered if maybe this was rabies too, but I don't think
No.
it's rabies because
Rabies takes a lot
it
longer.
takes a long time
Yeah.
in your to
No.
incubate.
Yeah,
And this was seemed like it was immediate.
this was some kind of sabotage or military accident. That's what I'm thinking right now. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you.
No, yeah, I'm just.
So she comes back, she gets what she needs to get, checks and makes sure, obviously, they're all dead, and they just died where they fell, evidently, because none of them were in a different position. Like I said, some of them had pulled off some of their clothes. I think 2 or 3 of them were barefoot, like it had taken their shoes off, too. Which,
Before they died.
Yeah, well, I'm not, yeah, they started, ripping their clothes off and stuff. So that's why some people, we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah. So at this point, she sees a thing, they have power lines on it, and she's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna follow the power lines because that will probably lead back to civilization, right? So she follows the power lines down the mountain for 4 days. Now, unfortunately for her, the power lines did lead to a village, but the village was completely abandoned, and there was nothing in it that she could use. But luckily for her, like right behind this abandoned village, she saw a river, and she's like, oh, well, obviously all the tourists are going to be in the area. Everybody's going to be kayaking down that river. So I'm going to go down there and follow the river until I find somebody. And again, like, she wasn't down there that long before the kayakers came along and found her. So she was rescued. Interestingly, they said that she couldn't tell them at first, like, what had happened. She really only started talking after they had picked her up, and then they were in the kayak, like, taking her back to civilization, and she passed another group of kayakers, and she recognized them as somebody that she'd met, like, on the train, like, on the way to the place, like, to the way to the trailhead. And then she started talking, because I guess that kind of, like, oriented her or something like that. But yes, they said she started talking then. And really, her account of this, she wrote, like, a really long account of it for the police, and then didn't talk about it again afterward for many years, and who can fucking blame her, really? But she that's really the only account that we have of, like, what happened up there, you know what I mean? So she gave the police a report. Like I said, it took them a while to get it out of her, but she did give them a very detailed report of what exactly had happened. However, no formal search for the other 6 hikers was undertaken until August 24th, which was almost 2 weeks later.
Why?
Which, that kind of fueled a lot of suspicions and conspiracy theories later on.
Yeah.
Now, I will note that according to some sources, they said the weather was too shitty to, like, go out there, like, sooner, but then I saw some other sources that said, no, the weather was fine, and there were other, maybe more nefarious reasons why they didn't go out there.
Cover up.
You know what I mean? Yeah, well, you know. Yeah. Now, I also saw some sources that said that there were a couple of other hikers whose names were Ivan Vaznev and Olga Indyukova, that they also went missing around the same time in the same area because of the weather. But, you know, happily they were both found alive and were rescued. So, finally, Valentina kind of told them where to look. But I guess she wasn't, like, real articulate or whatever, because they went out there with helicopters finally, like, 2 weeks later, and it took them, like, 2 days of flying around in the helicopters before they found the bodies, even though they were in, like, an open area. They weren't, like, in the trees or anything like that. They were out in a big open field. Because, like I said, there's pictures of it. They're kind of gross, but if you want to look at them, you can. When they found the bodies, obviously it had been a while, so they were very swollen and had been partially eaten by animals and eaten by insects, and, you know, their eyes were gone and shit like that. So I'm sure that was, like, a real nice day. Now, according to the medical examiner, 5 of the hikers had died of hypothermia. Lyudmila, they said, had died of a heart attack. I don't know. That sounds very, like very fishy to me.
Sounds like a bullshit.
According to the autopsy, they also all had bruised lungs, and they all had protein deficiency, as though they had been starving, which again seems very odd. So they said that it was this protein deficiency and a hypothermia that had brought on the death.
All at once? No.
So, well, yeah, we'll get into that. So, you know, the deaths were ruled accidental, which I don't disagree with that necessarily, but I don't think the cause of death is correct at all.
He lied.
So, yeah, so, I mean, according to what Valentina said happened to them, I'm like, hypothermia, I don't think so. I mean, maybe technically, I don't know, we'll get into it in a minute. Hypothermia could have technically been the cause of death, but I don't think that was, like...
the other one died of a heart attack?
Yeah, I don't think so.
And then it wouldn't all happen within same spot.
That's what I mean, I don't think so.
Right at the same time?
I mean, this all happened... According to Valentina, this happened, like, within minutes.
Yeah.
Like, almost simultaneously.
Well, the crime scene, if that's what you want to call it.
They were all right there. They were all like, really close. So, like I said, I saw the photos. They're all, like, right there. And she said they died where they fell.
What the autopsy is suggesting is that they died one by different means, which meant they would have died over a period of a few days. They'd be strung out over that trail.
Yeah.
No, they died all at once from the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Yeah.
That's what I think too. So, as you might imagine, a case this fucking weird, there's all kind of theories about what happened to these poor people. That range from pretty scientifically plausible, at least from my point of view, to crazy shit. Because obviously, just like in the Dyatlov Pass incident, people are going to say it was aliens or it was a Yeti or something like that, which is bullshit. We're not even going to talk about that. Because I suspect I kind of know what maybe happened here. So let's talk about some of the possibilities. Now, some of these are not mutually exclusive. Like, some of these could work in tandem with one another, that's for sure. But let's kind of get into that before we get any farther. Now, the first one that we have to address is possibly, maybe, Valentina's story was not accurate. I don't believe that that's true. I believe she saw what she said she saw. But you do have to take that into account. Maybe she misremembered it, or maybe she exaggerated it because of trauma, or whatever. You know what I mean? There's lots of different things. Because, people's memories aren't super accurate and all that kind of stuff.
All those bodies are right there.
But yeah, so, yeah. But I said you do kind of have to take that into account because she's the only person that was there that saw it happen. Right. So some people said, well, we're not saying that, I don't believe this is the case. I believe that she told it accurately because her story hasn't changed over the years. She told it back then, and she told it again, like I believe in 2019, and it hasn't changed in all that time. So I just don't really think that she made it up or embellished it or anything like that. I believe she saw what she said she saw. You know what I mean?
The scene supports her case.
Yeah, that too. But like I said, it's something that you do have to take into consideration.
They weren't murdered. There was no blunt force trauma.
No, nothing
holes,
like that.
Nothing like that. So she didn't kill him to make up a story. Yeah.
I did see that this doesn't necessarily mean that she didn't see what she said she saw. But I did see one user on Reddit, because there was like a big Reddit thread about this, with people kind of throwing out their own hypotheses. And I thought this was kind of interesting. I don't think this is the case either, but I did think this was interesting and maybe was a possibility. So one Reddit user said that maybe Valentina, the reason why she survived when everyone else died, maybe she wasn't even there when the deaths happened. Like, maybe she went ahead by herself just because she thought the others were too slow, or because she had argued with them, or something. You know what I mean? Or go ahead and get something, like somebody had told her to go ahead and get something, or something like that. And then, like, she kind of was just waiting for them to catch up, and they didn't, and then she's like, well, fuck it, and she just set up a tent and fell asleep. And then the next morning when they weren't there, she went back and found them all dead. And then maybe she kind of like made up the account as a way of kind of like rationalizing or explaining what had happened to them. You know what I mean?
Bullshit. Which,
like I said, I don't believe that's true. Yeah. But I just found that, and I thought that was kind of interesting, because it would explain like why she didn't fall victim to whatever the other 6 fell victim to. Because a lot of people are like, why didn't it kill her too? Whatever it was.
Had that happened, she just would have told that version of the story.
Yeah, you would think, because it wouldn't have really. There would really be no motivation for her.
Went back to go see what happened to him, and they were
and in some ways that would have been even like, because she'd have been like, hey, I just thought they were right behind me, and then like I went back and then they were all dead. I don't know what the fuck happened. You know what I mean? It would have been like that.
Right.
So I don't know why she would have any motivation to like not tell that story if that had been what happened. Like I said, I believe her. I think that it happened pretty much exactly like she said. So, but I just thought that I would throw that out there. So the second theory that people have put forward, that maybe indeed they did die of hypothermia or exposure, just like the autopsy said. Yeah. Now, the thing about it, so even though the weather was much colder than predicted, I will note that all of the hikers had colder weather gear, clothing, in a plastic bag, like in their pack.
So they didn't suit up.
So they didn't suit up, so it obviously wasn't cold enough for them to bust out the colder weather gear, which they would have done if it. Now, Valentina did say it got really cold because of the rain and everything like that, but apparently it wasn't cold enough for them to bust out like the big guns, you know what I mean? Like the colder weather gear, so I will note that.
Yeah, another thing that doesn't check out. If they're all basically wearing the same rig, and they all die of fucking hypothermia when she's with the party, but she doesn't die, even though she's wearing the same clothes. And She would have never survived it. She would have died along with them. No, she survived another couple days walking back. No.
4 days.
4 days. So
She
no.
survived another 4 days.
No, her story checks out.
And the thing about it is, like, she was very physically fit, but I don't think she was any more physically fit than anyone else on the trek.
Yeah. Cole doesn't really kind of care how physically fit you are.
Right, and so I don't think that really would have made a difference.
If you're overweight, you'll actually last longer because you're more insulated.
Yeah.
So no, she
eat that candy.
No, it wasn't the cold. It would have taken her down too.
See, I kind of think that too. I think the only reason that some people throw that out there is because of the paradoxical undressing, because she did say that some of them had started tearing their clothes off. And that is a thing that happens, like with hypothermia. And that might have been something that happened in the Dyatlov Pass incident also. Although I think in that case, I think they were probably sleeping in their tent with not that many clothes on, and then they just panicked and ran out without getting dressed.
Symptoms of nerve agent. Runny nose. Difficulty swallowing. Fucking confusion. Those are the fucking... That's the fucking main words.
Yeah, so like I said, this might have been not hypothermia. This might have been something else that was affecting their thought processes.
Yeah, it's either nerve agent or fucking blood agent, which I think they may be one and the same. Just the blood agent was an improved one. I haven't really researched blood agent. They probably wouldn't tell us exactly what that was anyway. You guys may be able to Google.
Well, like I said, we'll get into it in a little bit because I have some notes about that kind of stuff.
No, it may have been nerve agent or blood agent because that fits. That shit hits you and you start acting fucking crazy. Do all kinds of crazy
which, like
shit.
I said, that would explain
biting people,
and the girl smashing her head against the rock.
Yeah, confused speech,
that kind of shit.
Confused thinking, slurred speech. Yeah, that's nerve agent or blood agent.
I will note too that I don't believe the hypothermia thing because it wouldn't have killed all of them in such a short period of time. No, I mean hypothermia would take you like. There'd be like a longer period of time because depending on the person's physiology and...
Well, if they're all in the same gear, or roughly the same gear, they would all die at the same time, more or less. You know what I mean?
But within like minutes of each other? That seems... I don't know.
You'd die within minutes. If you're sitting there with a huge blast, 100 below zero, it doesn't matter what you're...
But like I said, it wasn't that cold.
It wasn't that cold, then
it wasn't that cold.
Then they weren't in gear. Then they didn't die of that.
Because you have to think... The weather had been shitty for a day or two. It wasn't like it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So if it was really that cold, like the day before or something like that, they would have busted out the colder weather.
I've been out 20 below
clothing.
I've been out 20 below zero Fahrenheit. Doing military operations, but you're wearing gear. Yeah, your feet are fucking cold, but it's not killing you. You know, it didn't get down to 20 below Fahrenheit, did it?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, then no.
Not close. Not even close.
Regular cold weather gear would
like I said, it was summer. It was summer.
Yeah.
It was August.
Yeah. That's not hypothermia. It doesn't.
Now, James Knapp makes the point, and I thought of this too, and I think I have this in my notes, but he said the nerve agent could have knocked them unconscious and they didn't wake up from the coma and then they died of hypothermia. That's a possibility, or exposure.
The thing is, those nerve agents fucking extremely toxic. Once it's in you, you're going to die.
Yeah.
You don't fucking
I'm just saying that that's a possibility too. Yeah. Like maybe that's, and it may be read as hypothermia, but
nerve agent is bug spray for humans. All right, it makes you very sick. Bug spray is a similar thing. It's just that it attacks only their systems, not ours. One drop of it on a needle will kill you. You know, it might take a little bit longer, but it'll kill you, and you really can't recover. The atropine injection kit, which is like a whole bunch of Valium and a whole bunch of adrenaline, can keep you alive for a little bit longer. They might be able to do something like a blood transfusion on you, but you're going to be fucked up. You're never going to be the same again. I saw some training films a long time ago at the NBC school. This is back in the 80s that I went there, of Contra rebels that had been hit with Soviet VX gas. And they have like 2 sets of atropine injector kits in their fucking pockets where they've been giving themselves and they're drooling and one eye bigger than the other and SF guys filming them. They were walking crooked and they were doing, you know, they'd like hold your arm up and he'd be like that. They all died though. The atropine kept them alive for a little bit longer, but they all died. And once it's in you, it kills you. It's only a matter of time. That atropine is not an antidote. Not really. More like a placebo. It makes you feel better, keep you running for a little bit longer. Maybe they're hoping that maybe you'll be able to flush it out through your kidneys or something. No. I've never really heard of anybody ever come in contact with it surviving. But then again, not a lot of people have come in contact with it.
I did hear a story, and I was going to save this for the nerve gas portion, but I did hear a story about a Russian scientist who's working on this particular nerve gas. I can't remember what his name was, but he supposedly, there was an accident in the lab, and he was exposed to it. He lived, but he was...
never the same one.
No. Like, I think he was, like, he had to be in a wheelchair, and he was brain damaged and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it was probably just a very small, minute amount, too. It's all it takes.
Yeah, I think it just, like, the thing in the...
it's invisible.
The test tube, like, busted or something.
If it's good gas or good VX, it's invisible, it's odorless, it's tasteless. You don't even know you've been dosed. You don't know how badly you've been dosed. If you've been hit full blast with it, you're going to die. There's no way around it.
Well, and probably, like, immediately.
Yeah, in seconds.
That's why, like I said, when I first started reading about this, like, the symptoms and stuff, I said, that sounds like some nerve agent right there. That's like, I thought that same thing. And I still kind of think that, but we'll get into that in a second. Because I'm going through the list of theories.
Yeah.
Some people have also proposed altitude sickness. I don't really buy this one either. Now, I will admit that altitude sickness can account for some of the symptoms, like confusion, hallucinations, vomiting, things like that. Just suddenly acting real crazy. And this also maybe might explain, if this was like a longer term thing, maybe that was why they camped in the weird spot that they camped, because they weren't really thinking right or something like that. Like, some people have put that forward. Because it's like, the tree line was not that far. Like, why didn't you camp under there? Because the weather was so shitty instead of out in the open. You know what I mean? On the other hand, I will note that where they were staying wasn't really that high. It was less than 8,000 feet. And they were actually, like, descending at the time of their deaths. They weren't ascending. And I'm going to say, too, altitude sickness generally comes on kind of slowly. I mean, depending on the person. And it's really you never see severe symptoms like that at these altitudes that would cause, the extreme shit that we see here. I have had altitude sickness one time. The first time I went to Denver, and... because that's mile high. And then we went up in the mountains. And the mountain that we went up to was actually higher than this. It was 11,000 feet, I think. 10,000, 11,000 feet. It didn't bother me when I was up there, but then, like, later on, I started feeling, like, really all I felt was, like, I had a headache, and I felt, like, really, really nauseated. You know what I mean? And it lasted probably, like, a day. But nothing like this. Now, I know that it, like, at extreme altitudes, yeah, you can have all kind of, like, extreme symptoms. But I just don't think this was high enough for the symptoms to have been this extreme. Now, it could be that they had some mild sickness and it was causing confusion and stuff like that, which maybe led to some other things, but I just don't think that's the case. I'm just saying that might have been a factor, but I doubt it. That's all I'm saying. So now we're getting into the more, I want to say, like, conspiracy theory shit, but you know what I mean. Like, some of the stuff that was maybe more on purpose. So one of the theories is that maybe they stumbled across something they weren't supposed to. Now, according to this hypothesis, maybe the hikers came across some secret Russian military experiment going on in the mountains and were killed because they saw something they shouldn't have. It's the same kind of thing that people say about the Dyatlov hikers.
Yeah.
I don't really believe it here either. Well, here's the thing. I believe there might have been a mild cover-up, as James Knapp said. Yeah, nerve gas with mild government cover-up. I think that's kind of where I'm going with this, too. Because I do think there was a mild cover-up. Because I think they said, they died of hypothermia and a heart attack, and I don't buy that. Not for one second.
Was there a test range anywhere near this area?
Well, we'll get into that in a second. So I do think that the medical examiner did maybe lie, or was told to lie, about the cause of death. Now, according to Natalia, Lyudmila's daughter, her and the other family members of the other victims were not allowed to see the bodies. I don't know if that's the case, but that's what she said. Anyway.
Probably not allowed to. They were rotten anyway.
Yeah, they didn't look too good from the photos that I saw and from, all accounts.
They wouldn't let you see them here either.
Actually, they said that even, like, hardened motherfuckers that went up there, like, threw up when they saw the shit. So it was pretty bad. Now, you know, but some people that are proponents of this theory say that it's like, well, they took a different route than usual, and it's possible that they could have stumbled across some, you know, something going on that they shouldn't have seen, and then they got, like, killed.
Bullshit.
But here's the thing. There's kind of two things that speak against this theory. One, as I mentioned earlier, the Khamar-Daban Mountains, this area, in the summertime, is like a tourist hotspot. So it's really crowded. You know what I mean? It's not crowded. There's not wall-to-wall people, but there's a lot of hiker groups and kayakers and stuff like that. There's just people everywhere. You know what I mean? If you were going to do some top secret shit in the Khamar-Daban Mountains, which they do, you know, no one's denying that. There is some top secret shit going on out there. But you can go 100 miles in one direction, and it's, like, super remote. Why would you do something in the area where all the tourists are? That's dumb. You know what I mean? Because people will see you. So that seems really stupid. Also, they're like, if that had indeed been the case, how did Valentina survive? You know what I mean? Like, they would have killed her too. So how did she get away?
No, it wasn't on purpose.
That's kind of where I'm going with it too. So I'm just saying that, you know, the way that where the hikers died was, like I said, it was an open field. I mean, like I said, if you can see from the pictures, it's open. You could see it from a plane or a helicopter. You could see it from the higher peaks of the mountain. Like, it was just all in the open. There's no trees or nothing. So it just seems like that would be a dumb place to be doing top secret government experiments. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm not saying that they don't do tests out there, because they do, but not in that area because it's really crowded, especially in the summertime. And especially this summer because, like I said, there was a big tourist festival going on. So there's that. Now we're getting into what I think is the most likely scenario. There's some other ones that we'll talk about later that are maybe likely, but this one. Nerve agents.
Yeah.
Now, the nerve agent that usually gets brought up in regards to this case is... VX is mentioned, but it's usually Novichok.
Okay.
Novichok.
Okay.
Yeah. So, now, as we have mentioned...
Novichok is not VX?
No, those are two different things.
Okay.
It's two different things.
I don't know that one. Novichok.
Yeah, or Novichok. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it.
All right.
But yeah. As we have pointed out, foaming from the mouth, bleeding from the eyes, convulsions, that's a pretty obvious... Those are pretty obvious symptoms of a nerve toxin, you know? Also, lung bruising, which they did find in the autopsies... Yeah. That is also kind of a common symptom of some nerve gases also, because nerve gases will usually cause like respiratory difficulty.
They breathed in a little wisp of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it can also cause cardiac arrest, which might have explained why Ludmila's cause of death was cardiac arrest. Yeah. So that could have been that.
The blood would have been fucking poisoned though too. Although maybe they didn't have a means to test for it.
See, I'm not sure if they just like covered it up or if they didn't actually test for that.
Probably covered it up.
I'm kind of leaning toward that too.
Look, man, it's preliminary shit. Tell them this and that. They probably had some kind of a KGB medical doctor was there and told the other guy, "No, this is what you're gonna say on the fucking," you know. They probably looked at the body together because this is what you're gonna tell them on the autopsy.
Probably.
We're not gonna mention any nerve agent poisoning. That's what it was, though. If you ask me, the symptoms are all right there.
Yeah, like I said, that's what I thought too. Yeah, James says, these were super experienced hikers. No fucking way this was altitude sickness. Yeah, I didn't think that either. Like I said, they had been on like tons of hikes before, and this wasn't even a super high mountain, so I'm sure it wasn't that. And like I said, the worst I've been higher than that and got altitude sickness, and all I did was like be real nauseated, like for a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was about it. So you have to go up real high to get like extreme altitude sickness like that. So yeah. So Novichok gas was developed by, it's a family of nerve agents that was developed by the Soviet Union. I believe they said that they stopped working on it in 1993, which is the same year that this incident happened.
What makes it different from VX, did they say?
Is supposedly 10 times more lethal than VX.
Okay.
20 times more lethal than sarin.
Okay.
Supposedly one of the deadliest nerve agents ever conceived.
Maybe that's the one that they told us was Blood Agent. Maybe that was the name they told us. Maybe, you know what I said? It might be Blood Agent.
Yeah.
They probably just didn't tell us it was Novichok. They would have given it an American term to tell the military. That's probably what we knew as Blood Agent, because it was more dangerous than VX.
Yeah, this might have been what they were talking about then.
Probably what they were talking about.
Because I don't know, I'm not really sure if, information about this particular nerve agent, I don't think came out until much later. So
Yeah, well, everything was secret.
That's what I mean.
All that shit, we had that shit, but it was all secret. They wouldn't talk about that. Because we had signed we had made other people sign all kinds of agreements not to have fucking chemical and biological weapons. So we did it in secret.
Yeah.
We made them agree not to have it, but we did it. We were doing it.
Well, and they probably did the same thing.
They did the same thing too.
They're like, oh yeah, we're totally not going to do that. Their fingers are crossed behind their back.
All this international rules of warfare is... The international rules of warfare are whatever the United States tells you they are. That's what we tell all our vassal states and shit. This is what you have. And then people that we can bully, this is what you can and cannot have. And then we did whatever the fuck we wanted. And then if the Soviet, we couldn't control them. They had all kinds of shit, So we would just pretend to follow rules. We didn't, though. Fuck no. We had all that. All that shit was fucking put away, though. And most of the chemical and biological type agents, they're not shelf stable. So they have to be broken down into shelf stable components. Then they're mixed and loaded into some kind of weapon systems and then delivered. But the way the U.S. Army did things and the kind of people we were fighting, we didn't need biological weapons or chemical weapons. We just used conventional shit. Because America made its bread and butter beating up on little countries like Iraq. Shit like that. Iraq and Afghanistan and fucking Panama and fucking the Grenada. And,
well, it's easier to look like a winner when you pick on little bitty
guys. Yeah.
I mean, bullies know all about that.
Right. That was how the U.S. empire grew. So they were doing that in Central America in the 1800s and South America and shit. Hey, we just got to face facts and just got to face the facts. I mean, I was in that army. It was worse than what we thought it was. Nowadays everything, you can't hide anything because of the internet. So you kind of see the game that they're playing. But, international rules of warfare didn't really exist. That was just what we'd tell other people to do.
Hey, Poke. She's complaining. Xanada said, the documentary I saw said that Lyudmila's daughter admitted to receiving government payouts. Ooh, I didn't see that documentary. I watched a bunch of documentaries about it, but I must not have seen that
Hush
one.
money?
But maybe.
Yeah.
The one that I saw, I did see one that said that she wasn't allowed to see the bodies.
Yeah.
Like see her mom's body and stuff like that, but I didn't see one where she gotten payouts. So yeah, I do kind of feel like there is like an element of cover up to this, but here's the thing. So, I probably need another drink.
Yeah, were there any other? Is that the last one?
No. I still got more stuff to talk about. Yeah, James said it's Russia. KGB told them don't test the blood, and that's all it needs to be done. Yeah, I kind of figured that that's probably what happened. You know what I mean? Here's the thing, though. If it was a nerve agent, which I think it was, that's kind of the theory that I'm going with. I have a couple more to talk about, but this is kind of the one that I favor because it just seems more... It seems to fit all the symptoms better. Although I will note that it is weird that Valentina wasn't affected. She didn't seem to be affected at all, even though she was right there, like in the same area. And she even went back to the area like afterward, which like Tom was saying was probably not a great idea. But like I said, she didn't know what else to do because she didn't have any stuff. So some people have like used that as an argument against the nerve gas thing. Because it's like, well, how would Valentina have survived? She would have died like everyone else. And the thing about it too is that I think there's kind of two different theories as far as nerve gas goes, because I think people are talking about, well, nerve gas as in someone was there to administer it. I don't think that was the case, because I think you run into the same problems that you run into with the earlier theory that we talked about where, they saw something they shouldn't have. It's like, why would they be in this like super crowded area? I will note though that as far as I know, like according to reports, they had tested Novichok in that mountain range. Not then. They weren't doing it right then, but they had done it before. So it's not crazy to like think that. So do I think somebody sprayed them with nerve gas deliberately, like as a test? No, I don't think that. However, I think what happened was that they had tested it there in the past and somehow it still lingered around. Because here's the thing. From everything that I read about this particular nerve agent, it can linger in the area for a very long time after it's
persistent.
Right, after it's deployed. So it could have just hung around in the atmosphere. It could have hung around in the trees, in the water. It could have just been there. And I believe that this nerve agent in particular is water soluble. And that it can take like a really long time to dissipate, like I said. So it can just kind of like hover around in the environment, you know what I mean? And kind of just be around. Now, so it could be that the Russian military had been experimenting with this nerve gas in this mountain range somewhere. Like, it probably wasn't in the super touristy area, because like I said, that would be real stupid. But maybe somewhere else in the area, like not that far away. Maybe months before or whatever. And it so happened that when this hiking team was in this particular area, like I said, there was a really bad and unexpected storm with a lot of rain that they weren't expecting. So it could be that all of this rain that they had maybe kind of like washed it, whatever was still lingering around farther up the mountain, kind of like washed it down to where they were. You know what I mean? So I think maybe the weather might have had a factor, might have played a factor as well.
More likely that it was something like it was up in tree limbs.
It could have been that too.
And it rained, and it washed it out of the trees, and it was landed on them. It's landed on some of them. Maybe something like that.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. That because I kind of feel like I don't think anyone sprayed them with it on purpose.
No.
I think that it had been tested in another part of those mountains earlier, at some earlier time, and it was still like hanging around in the environment. And then because the weather was bad, particularly with all the rain and stuff like that, it maybe like washed it down to the area where they were in. It might have put it into the groundwater. It might have like, you know, so it might have been hanging around near the ground or whatever. And it just so happened that they wandered across like a pocket of it. You know what I'm saying?
Could have been anything. Maybe they had an aircraft, like a helicopter or an airplane that was set up for like what you would call crop dusting, but it had that stuff in it. And they accidentally discharged some of it at a high altitude. They got caught up in a wind, and it blew. A small little puff of it blew, and it just happened to hit those kids, hit some of them. And it might have just been a real weak dose of it.
Yeah, because it didn't affect anybody. There were other hiking groups in the same area, and it didn't affect anybody else.
Could have been like maybe they had it loaded up in some kind of cluster munition or something, and they launched it. They dropped this fucking cluster bomb full of fucking super VX. And maybe one of the little bomblets didn't deploy properly. And when the plane flew off the range to go back, that little bomblet, it's like the size of just a little bomblet went off. It wasn't intended for them at all. This is some kind of an accident.
It said I disconnected.
Yeah.
I don't know if it really did.
Yeah, it looks like it did.
Okay. I don't know what that was about.
The back, okay. Disconnected
It says reconnected.
Okay.
It never went. The light is still green. It never changed color, so I don't know.
It was some kind of they lost control over some nerve agent somehow.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that kind of like is the closest to the symptoms that she described.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is weird that she lived, especially because what they think in this scenario, what they think happened. The first one to die was Sasha, the 23-year-old man. He must have stumbled across a pocket of it first, and then Lyudmila, when she ran back to help him, got into the same pocket. You know what I mean? Because it seemed like they died in the order that they went back to that area. You know what I'm saying? The weird thing about it, though, is that Valentina went and touched, I think, Lyudmila's arm, but she didn't really seem to have any effects. So a lot of people, I think that's kind of the main thing that people use to argue against the nerve gas thing. It's like, well, that would have killed Valentina too. Why didn't it? Because like I said, she was in the same area.
I can tell you why.
And she went back to the area afterward too, like to get supplies, like the next morning.
I can tell you why. Maybe it was waterborne. Some of it was coming down a stream.
Well, I'll get into that. That's
Okay.
another one of my theories, like farther
Yeah.
down.
And they refilled canteens there and were drinking it. But she didn't refill her canteen. She had enough water. Maybe something like that.
Yeah. Because
Or-
some of
or
these
she
nerve...
refilled after later, and then it had blown by already and down
Right.
the stream.
Because I definitely think this was like an accidental deployment, and it
Yeah.
was like just a pocket.
Yeah.
Because there were other people in the area, and nobody else was seemingly affected by this at all.
The easiest way to kill a person like that with nerve, and then not affect anybody else, is to get them to ingest it. So they may have ingested it accidentally, but she didn't. So they drank it, maybe.
Well, I was going to get into that, because that
Yeah.
was like a later thing, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it does seem like maybe the poison was kind of like hanging out near the ground, because it does seem like people that squatted down or something like that, like they got it quicker, you know what I mean,
You
or
think
that were
so?
in the same area.
You'd think, though, that they wouldn't, even if they drank it, they wouldn't all die at exactly the same time. Because they wouldn't be drinking at the same rate.
Yeah, I think it's more likely that it was airborne,
Yeah, it came down and hit him, but it didn't hit her.
or she wasn't somehow in the pocket, like she was just lucky to not.
It was just like a wisp of smoke. You know how you have a cloud of cigarette smoke?
Yeah.
And you see that cloud blow away in the wind? Well, a lot of those agents are kind of basically laced with kind of oil particles to keep them from going on the ground. You're trying to keep them airborne, so it spreads. And it might have come down in a big wisp. It might have come from a very high altitude in a big wisp. And it came down, got 5 of them, but not the sixth. And then it blew past them and hit the ground, hit the trees. And she didn't ever get any. There wasn't enough of it on her, or they breathed it in. It was real weak. You had to ingest it by inhaling it.
Yeah, maybe, because I think
Wasn't
some of
enough.
the nerve gas you can like get it through the skin too.
All of them.
But
All of them, all you need is a droplet. If you were to take a needle and dip it into VX, which is fucking very deadly.
and this is worse than
And
that.
this is worse.
If this is the one they're talking about.
You can take a single needle and dip it into liquid VX, so there's a little drop on it, and you could drop that droplet on the back of your hand, and you'll be dead in about 20 minutes.
Which is really scary
Just
to think
a-
about.
yeah,
that
and it's
there's
coming
something
down in a
that the
mist.
world. Yeah.
If it's full blast, it's coming. You're being
Like I
targeted.
said,
it comes
according
down
to
in
her, this happened like within minutes.
mist. Yeah.
Sasha went down. Lyudmila went down like minutes later, like not even a minute
Yeah.
later. It seemed like the way she described it, and then the other ones like came over there to help, and then they started dropping. You know what I mean? So it was like immediate,
Yeah.
which to me just sounds like nerve gas to me.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And also, remember how I said earlier that they didn't even go out to look for the bodies until like almost 2 weeks later.
Kind of like they knew.
And it's like, yeah, they might have. So that's what fuels this theory, is just kind of like, they're like, well, maybe they suspected that it was some nerve gas, and they're like, oh shit, maybe we should wait a little while
Let
until
it
that all
persist.
clears out of there.
Yeah.
And then we'll go and check.
Yeah.
Because they're probably dead anyway.
That
so
checks
it's
out.
fine.
Oh no, they're dead. Going to be dead.
Yeah. So
they're gonna
they probably came up with some bullshit. So, oh, the weather's too bad, or some other kind of crap.
But they're like, well, what's the half-life?
Right.
Half-life.
They were probably waiting for it all to clear
Yeah, they
out of the
said,
area.
well, half-life's
And then they
a
were going to
week.
go.
The half-life.
I mean, that makes total sense.
Yeah,
to
that's
me.
probably what it was. Because they would have asked, well, what's the half-life on the shit? And they said a week. So that means it take a week. It's on at half strength. 2 weeks, it's safe.
Right. So they
That's
waited
what they
about
want.
2 weeks.
Right. It's probably what they did.
Because I think they found her on the 10th, and then I think they didn't go out searching until the 24th. So yeah, so that's more than 2 weeks actually.
Yeah. Yeah. They wanted to make sure it was good and safe.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Now, by the same token, it's possible that the nerve gas maybe wasn't like an on-purpose nerve gas, but was maybe something naturally occurring.
Yeah.
That's possible too.
Possible.
Like sulfur, mercury, something like that.
Some kind of weird spores, maybe.
Yeah, that was maybe released from underground or something like that.
Weird mold spores.
Yeah, it could have been.
That have fucking something like a neurotoxin in it, maybe.
Yeah, because that does exist.
Yeah.
Like in nature. So it could be that they just were unlucky enough to stumble across some pocket of something or other that like came out of the ground, or like you said, some kind of spores or something like that. Somebody on Reddit also brought up, I had never heard of this, but they were talking about this. They said that there are wolf and bear traps that use spring-loaded cyanide that kills big animals. And cyanide, like sodium cyanide, does cause similar symptoms, convulsing, foaming at the mouth, things like that. They said the person also turns blue, which maybe could be mistaken for hypothermia. And then if somebody tried to give CPR to the person, then they would also ingest it. So they said that's another thing, that maybe somebody was poaching out there, and like maybe somebody had put some of these traps out there that had, but yeah, I'm just saying that was another possibility that I had never occurred to me.
Very unlikely.
But yeah, somebody kind of said that too. Along the same lines, some of these symptoms also kind of sound like strychnine poisoning, which causes death by respiratory or cardiac arrest, because the muscles that you use for breathing start spasming and can't move.
That's slower, more lingering, though.
Yeah, well, it depends on the dose.
Does it?
It depends on the dose. You can kill somebody very slowly. No, that's arsenic, actually, that you can do the slow thing. Strychnine is usually, and actually I've heard strychnine is like one of the worst ways to
How are you going to get that into 5 people?
That's what I mean. I'm just not sure, because strychnine, yes, it's naturally occurring.
It's not a weapon, though.
But I kind of feel like that would suggest that somebody poisoned them, or it was in their food or in their water or something like that. Now, strychnine is used as a pest control thing, like to kill gophers and stuff. So maybe they were kind of like foraging in the area, and like then something got on the mushroom, because they were foraging for mushrooms and things like that. So they could have poisoned themselves that way. I mean, it's like I said, it could have happened.
Dying by natural stuff, usually it's slower.
That's what I'm saying.
A lot of vomiting and stuff. You know it's coming. You feel very fucking sick. This hit instantly. That's a weapon. All right. Nerve agents are weapons. All right. They are bug spray for humans. It's their job to persist in an area, or to be delivered somewhere, to have minimal contact with a human being, and it kills them as quickly as possible. That's what VX was made to do. You had chemists trying to figure that shit out. How do we kill these people with these fucking poison gas? Something that's just tailored for it. And man, having 5 people just die all at once.
6 people.
The 6 people just die within minutes of each other, by no visible means. That means they're very minute amounts of it.
And she didn't mention smelling anything weird either.
It's odorless and colorless. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's part of the weapon. Okay. Man, no, that's VX, or that other improved VX she's talking about. That's a nerve agent. Hell yeah.
Novichok, yeah.
Yeah. That's what it is. That was built to kill people, and that's what you saw there. They just lost they lost control over it somehow. Some of it got up high in the atmosphere or something and blew up, got caught up in a draft, and then blew back down and hit somebody. And it was kind of sticking together in an invisible fucking cloud. Or it was on the ground or blowing through the trees or something, a little bit of it, and it got 6 of them, but not the 7th. Something like that.
Yeah.
Nah, I ate something, or we breathed in some mold
Well, like
spores.
I said, I'll get into there's more
That's
stuff.
That's going to be too... That's going to have a lot of mixed results. Natural venoms tend to have, or natural poisonings, like things like plants and mold spores.
Well, because people's physiologies are different, so everyone's going to react to it
in a different way.
In a different time frame.
Yeah, and it's going to take different amount of time, so it's not reliable.
Right.
Whatever did this to these kids was fucking reliable, which tells me it's a weapon.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. Because like I said, there's a possibility that it could have been natural. Like I said, somebody brought up strychnine, somebody brought up mercury, like maybe they caught some fish that had like mercury in it and stuff like that. But it's just kind of like, because that does cause similar symptoms.
They all got exposed at the same time, and they all died at the same time. That's a weapon.
Yeah.
Snakes can't do that. Snake bites can't do that. Drinking fucking cyanide's not going to do that. It's going to take time. Well, yeah, if it's a lot of concentration. But you didn't see them drink, and they'd all have to be drinking at the same time.
That's another thing. Because okay, so that's like the next kind of theory, which is kind of related. Some people have talked about maybe the water was contaminated that they were drinking. So just like in the last one, like maybe it was some kind of nerve gas or something like that, but it was brought down by the rain. But also maybe the hikers consumed it when they drank water. Now I will note that there's kind of a lake that's upstream from where they were called Lake Baikal, I think it's called.
Baikal.
But, well, it's B-A-Y-K-A.
Oh, with a Y?
Yeah, there's a Y in it.
B-A-K-A-L?
Yeah, I mean, I would have said it like that if there wasn't a Y in it, but there's a Y in it.
There is a word called Baikal.
Well, I know that, but it's not the same place.
All right.
So, so there's this lake, and this lake has been used for essentially toxic waste dumping since, I believe, the 1960s. And so it's possible that the heavy rains over the last couple of days may have washed some of the toxic waste from this lake down into where they were filling their canteens from. And maybe they all drank water with breakfast at the same time, and so the shit all started affecting them at the same time. You know what I mean? Because there was a bunch of chlorine in there. There's a bunch of other shit. Because there was a bunch of factory runoff. There was a bunch of other kind of crap in there. I don't even remember what all they were doing up there. But they were pouring all kind of like fucking waste in there. So it's possible that in this scenario, maybe Valentina didn't drink as much water, or she got water from someplace else than they did, or something like that. And the thing about it too is that maybe, I think when they did the autopsies, I don't know if like the KGB or whoever like came in and told them, hey, don't specifically look for poison or don't test the blood like James Knapp said, but maybe they just didn't do their due diligence. You know what I mean? They're just like, it was hypothermia, the end. You know what I mean? They didn't really like look for any contaminants because they just didn't really seem to. I don't know. But the thing about it is, if it was from the water, though, like you said, anything that's natural would affect everybody like at a different time. So the fact that everybody kind of died, and that's kind of going into the next theory, which was they ate something poisonous.
Another thing is that let's say they drank something out of the pond. The pond had some nerve agent in it. If it had nerve agent in there, that pond would be filled with fucking dead frogs and dead fish floating up at the surface. I mean, you didn't notice that. It would kill everything in there.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't think you'd want to drink out of that. It's like, oh, hey, look at all the dead fish.
Look at all these fucking dead fish
floating on the surface. Yeah, let's not drink
if there's enough of it in there to kill you when you fill up a canteen and drink it out of there, that means that where you're filling up, there's going to be dead tadpoles and fucking dead creatures fucking everywhere. So, nah, I ain't going to buy that. It wasn't waterborne. It was airborne.
I kind of feel like it was airborne.
Guarantee you, when they called this shit in, they knew what it was. They sent the damn KGB down there. Going, a couple of days ago we shot off some fucking VX
or
rounds.
months ago or whatever.
We were shooting off some VX rounds about 100 miles away. That's probably what that is. They would have fucking clamped that shit down. They would have shut everybody up. They said, don't go up there, man. Give it a couple fucking weeks to fucking fall apart, to decay.
It's totally polluted.
Yeah, that shit poison. There's poison on them.
Sorry, that was from 16 Candles.
Yeah, that's what it is, though. I'm telling you, that's what it is. It's all lining up.
Yeah, James says Lake Baikal is the largest freshwater lake in the world in terms of water volume. Yeah, I remember hearing that actually. But yeah, it's again totally polluted. They've been dumping waste in there since 1966, I believe, maybe earlier. But yeah. So there are also theories, like I said, that they maybe ate something poisonous. So this is kind of interesting. I don't believe this is the case either, but this is also kind of an interesting theory. So Lyudmila was a forager, and that was one of the survivalist things that she taught her people, you know what I mean, her students, like how to forage for edible stuff in the wilderness. And so it was hypothesized that maybe she had picked some of the wrong kind of mushrooms, like, and eaten them, and, you know, some bad shit happening. Not necessarily that the mushrooms, well, I don't know, not necessarily that the mushrooms were poison, but also maybe they were kind of like, like magic mushrooms. Yeah. And one thing that I noted, like one thing that I read, said that if they were magic mushrooms that caused hallucinations, like a very common hallucination is seeing people cry blood, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know if that's the case, but I just read that somewhere.
Sounds like bullshit.
Well, yeah, like I said. So yeah, it's in this scenario, it's like, yeah, maybe they ate the wrong kind of mushrooms and either were tripping their balls off or they were poisonous, and then they later died of hypothermia or exposure or whatever. And in this scenario, Valentina might have lived because she didn't eat them or had a higher tolerance or what have you. You know what I mean?
She reported she saw him eating mushrooms.
That's what I mean. I kind of feel like she would have thing. And the thing about it too is that as experienced a survivalist as Ludmilla was, I find it extremely unlikely that she would have, one, picked the wrong kind of mushrooms, and two, like, fed people mushrooms that she wasn't, like, sure that they were completely safe. You know what I mean? Because usually people that are into doing that kind of stuff, they're pretty careful about it.
And the first guy went down because he started screaming. It's the first. He started screaming.
He was in the end.
Shit off and
well, I don't know if he took shit off, but he started screaming, and then
he probably took his pack off.
He basically just started convulsing.
Yeah.
He started convulsing, and blood started coming out of his orifices.
So there isn't any of this. He's eating the mushrooms, and then
they're saying that they ate the mushrooms at breakfast time,
That's
like 20 minutes earlier.
Yeah. So there is what would have happened if it was mushrooms. He would have been eating them, and then 10, 15, 20 minutes later, he'd be like, "I don't feel so good." And then they'd all go, "Yeah, I don't feel too good either." Then they would probably start throwing up, and they were going, "Those mushrooms were bad." It wouldn't have gone down that way. It wouldn't be instant convulsions and dead within a few minutes. No. Just sorry. I just don't believe that.
Here was another kind of interesting thing, and I saw this brought up on a couple of documentaries. Some didn't mention it. But, you know, I don't think this had anything to do necessarily with how they died or anything, but I just thought it was kind of interesting. So, as I said, like, Lyudmila was a big forager, and her and the others had been foraging rose root, which is also called golden root. The scientific name is Rhodiola rosea. And so they had been collecting that on the mountain while they were going. Now, this is supposedly like a good source of nutrients, and it's supposed to like alleviate fatigue and altitude sickness and various other things. Though this claim is not scientifically verified, but this is supposedly some miracle drug that can do all this, cure cancer and all this other kind of shit. Although I will note the plant is perfectly edible. You can totally eat it. You can eat the leaves. You can eat the shoots. You can eat them raw. They're kind of bitter. Or you can cook them like and do the same kind of shit that you would do with spinach. So some people put them in salads and stuff like that. So I kind of feel like some things I saw were kind of maybe implying that maybe people had a bad reaction to the rose root, or more likely that maybe Valentina was the only one to eat it and it gave her some kind of protection from whatever it was that happened to the other people. Because it's not real clear if any of the others ate it. Valentina did, but I don't know if the others did. Now, they did find a big bag of it in Lyudmila's pack, but it might have been because she was going to sell it later, because it's actually like a pretty high demand product, like to put in supplements and things like that, and it kind of commanded a high price. So if you went up there and kind of picked some, you could like sell it and like make some money. So she might have been doing that. So they don't know if she ate it. But some people have said that maybe because Valentina ate that, maybe that protected her from whatever it was. I don't know. Now, I will note too, and this is kind of sad that this happened, because in the wake of this happening, Lyudmila, I feel like, got a lot of blame from people who thought, because remember how I said she was kind of a hard ass?
Yeah.
They believed that she was like pushing the hikers too hard. Like they were just teenagers, blah de blah. Like, so, well, I mean, you know, the youngest one was 15, and then, you know, they weren't that young, you know what I'm saying? But these people have argued, oh, she was wearing them out, and she's like making them go on too little food and all this other stuff, pointing to the autopsy that said that they had protein deficiencies, like on the verge of starvation and blah de blah, which I don't think that's the case. Now, both Valentina and Lyudmila's other students have come out like defending her. They're like, look, she knew her shit. She never would have done anything to harm anybody that was in her charge. And she was always like real strict about making sure that everybody had sufficient food for the number of the calories they'd be burning every day. You know what I mean? Like, she figured out how far are we walking every day, like how many calories does this person need, like, and would make sure that everybody would pack that amount of calories, like, at least. And Valentina, in her later interview, specifically said, we ate hot food 4 times a day, and every time we stopped to rest, we always had snacks. They're like, we had chocolate, we had onions, we had beets, we had just all this kind of stuff, like cereals, all kind of stuff. So we had stuff to eat, like, all the time. Nobody was starving. It was fine. You know what I mean? So, but like I said, I kind of feel like a lot of people kind of blamed Lyudmila like it was her fault. And the thing about it is that they were really only out for 3 or 4 days. And I feel like that's not really long enough for, like, true malnutrition to set in. You know, protein deficiency over that many days, yeah, it could make you more vulnerable to other things, like altitude sickness or whatever. So, sure, that could have been a factor. But I just don't think that was a factor. I mean, like I said, these were experienced hikers. They had plenty of food with them. They seemed like they knew what they were doing. And, you know, none of the other hikers that she had ever been on a journey with ever said, oh, she made us, like, starve or anything like that. That seems, like, really stupid. So, I don't know. I just don't think that's the case. But Lyudmila did get a lot of shit, like, after this happened, like, people blaming her, you know? And Valentina did say that they had food. They were eating just fine. They had enough protein. It was shit, like, you know, it was fine. So Valentina, after she, you know, was rescued and everything, she told what happened to the police, and then she basically moved away and, like, just started a new life. She said, I don't want to talk about it, which, like I said, you can't fucking blame her. Jesus Christ, I can't imagine seeing that happen in front of your face. You know, she said, I just don't want to relive that nightmare. She did talk about it again in, I believe it was 2019. She gave, like, an interview to a magazine or whatever, but she's like, this is the only other time I want to talk about it, and I just don't want to think about it anymore, because yikes. You know what I mean? Now, she has said, at least according to that interview, she thought that it was kind of the freezing rain was kind of the main factor. You know, so I don't really know. She seems to subscribe more to, like, the hypothermia thing or the weather thing where everyone got really cold, but I don't know. Like I said, it really does seem like... I did see a YouTube comment underneath one of the documentaries about it. And this person said, and this is a quote, it says, as an experienced mountaineer, I can vouch for a condition whereby if temperatures drop enough, and given the wind faces the correct direction, the air can freeze in your airways, literally crystallizing your lungs to the point where you feel like you're suffocating, causing you to cough blood, while also making you feel like you're overheating. This could explain why they had removed clothes and had coughed up blood, and is an extremely painful way to die, but very possible this could have been the cause. Not impossible, if, you know, given the unusual weather conditions. And like I said, Valentina does seem to subscribe to that. Like, she thought maybe that's what happened. But I don't really know.
I've never heard of that.
I never heard of that either.
We were
but
out
I'm
there
just
getting
saying.
all kinds of cold wind blowing on us.
I'm just saying.
In Korea, never had anything like that happen. And she was fucking freezing cold. Now, Xanadus wanted to know. He's asking,
can we explain the friend biting Valentina?
Yeah, nerve
Would
agent.
nerve agent make someone act out that way?
Yeah.
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 I kind of feel like
out.
anything that would make you glitch out like that would make you, like, would cause you to...
It's confused thinking.
Yeah.
Blurry vision. Lack of being able to swallow. Slurred speech. You just start to become a fucking zombie. And then convulsions and death. That's it. That sounds just like fucking nerve agent.
That's why, yeah. And the girl, like, bashing her head against the rock, too.
Yeah.
Because obviously they weren't thinking clearly.
Yeah, you're not thinking clearly.
Like, something descended on them and they all started, like, flipping out.
Brain starts fucking malfunctioning because of fucking your nerves are all shutting down. You know, it gets into your skin or it gets into your lungs and it just starts shutting all the nerves off and you convulsions and nothing makes sense. Everything's just firing randomly. Then you suffocate because you can't breathe. You're not breathing because that takes commands to expand your chest and to fucking you become so discombobulated you can't even take a breath. You're not coordinated enough. Just eats you up, and your thinking is out the window. As soon as they're doing things like biting noses or trying to bite or speaking real slurred and everything, they're not really there anymore. they're on their way out.
Yeah.
So it's not human behavior.
And like I said, it wasn't just the biting thing. It was
Yeah.
that other girl, like, bashing her head against the rock,
Bashing her
too.
head.
I think that was Tatiana.
And it did said slurred speech. They couldn't make out what she was saying. That's nerve agent.
Well, I don't remember saying that, but...
No, I thought you said that one girl tried to say something, but nobody could understand what she was saying.
No, I didn't say
I
that.
thought you said that. Okay. Said they couldn't quite make it out. Okay.
No, that was later on when I was talking about when they found Valentina.
Oh,
But
okay.
that's because she was freaked out, not because she was, like...
All right, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the most mysterious thing about it is how Valentina was unaffected completely.
Yeah.
If this indeed was nerve gas, which I think it was. Everything about this says that it was nerve gas. Like I said, I don't think they were deliberately poisoned with nerve gas. Like, I don't think they were tested on or anything like that. Not saying that hasn't happened.
No.
But I don't think that happened in this case. I think it was accidental.
Accidental discharge.
I think that they had either, like you said, accidentally discharged it like sooner, or they had been testing it like earlier at some earlier time, like a few months ago or something, and it just, because of the bad weather, it kind of like washed down to where they were, like into some kind of pocket, and they just happened to like walk into it. But like I said, I'm not really sure how Valentina escaped, because she was there. She was right there with them. So she must be like the luckiest fucking person in the world.
Yeah.
To like not have been affected at all. Because nerve gas, it's not a kind of thing where, because like you said, like natural poisons, some people can survive that shit. I mean, some people it'll kill them, some people not. It's just like illness, you know what I mean? Because everyone's physiology is different, so some people are more resistant. But, you know, a nerve gas, like you said, is specifically designed
To kill you.
to kill people.
Yeah.
So it's gonna kill people.
It
It's
is
not,
literally-
nobody's gonna like be immune to that or whatever.
No, it is literally bug spray for humans.
For humans,
That's
right?
what it is.
Raid for humans.
And I think they were using it in some area. A lot of times, you know, they'll want to test shelf lives. You know what I mean? Make sure that what they were using on the Contras, all right, was stuff that they gave to they gave it to the Sandinistas, and they were using the Soviet Hind helicopters with rocket launching pods. I think it's probably like 40 millimeter rockets in a fucking cluster pod, and it had VX in those. They would shoot those rockets off in a big volley, and they'd hit up on a mountain inside the jungle. You know, it's like Predator type shit. They'd fucking hit trees, and they'd all pop open, little poof, and be like little puffs of fucking smoke that fucking go clear. And then if any of that blows on you or gets on you, you're dead, man. That's how they were. They were using that. All right, the Soviets were testing it, and they were getting it to the Sandinistas so they could use it on the Contras in Nicaragua. Was that in Nicaragua or Venezuela?
I thought it was Nicaragua. But
Yeah, I think it's Nicaragua.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
So
This is a long
I
time
think
ago.
what happened is they were doing something like they'll want to test how long the shelf life is. They might set up a range. They'll put some targets out there, and then they'll put some special kinds of papers and chemical detectors out there in the damn target zone. And fly a helicopter with the oldest rockets they got. Maybe those rockets been sitting around for 10 years. And they'll shoot them off there and then fucking get a reading back on all those sensors to make sure that the VX is still good. How much is it degraded, you know? They want to know, you know. Because usually that shit is not shelf stable, not long term. So let's say they're testing like that in an area 20 miles, 30 miles, 50 miles maybe from this place.
Yeah, which they were. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, they pretty much know that.
And there's storms going on, and a big gust of wind catches some of that stuff.
Yeah,
All right?
because it
And
was
then
real windy.
And then there's mountains there. It goes over the mountains, and it's fucking doing weird shit that, you know, like like a Gulf Stream, a stream of air. Well, they just happen to walk through a stream fucking 50 miles away. It's got a little bit in it, and maybe it's intermittent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like I said, maybe it's just little pockets.
Little pockets of it in a
wisps
stream,
of it.
in an airstream, coming up over the mountains. You know, and it comes down a little blast, gets 5 of them or 6 of them, but not the 7th. She might have been a distance. There might have been distance in between them, or just sheer luck. It might have been that it wasn't very concentrated by the time it got to them. It was, you know, real weak. But that doesn't mean anything with some of these fucking nerve agents.
Like I said, she was super lucky.
Just a little bit can kill you. Well, evidently she avoided it somehow.
Because I don't think she really even described having any symptoms from it.
Yeah, she was in the right place at the right time, not to dodge it. You know, but it was an accident. She didn't know. It's odorless. It's colorless. It's invisible. And then it hit the other ones, and it got them all around the same time. Which that checks
Yeah,
out the
like
nerve agent.
within minutes.
That checks out the nerve agent.
Dropped.
Only a weapon does that, not some kind of natural. Well, some spores blew. Yeah, it sounds good, but it's not going to be that reliable. Some of them it'll kill some of them maybe. Other ones it'll just get real sick. Other ones it'll die, but it might take 2 or 3 days. You don't know. It's not something.
Yeah, like you said, something natural is more likely to like not be as.
It's not real reliable. It's not potent. This was fucking designed as a weapon. It gets you dead. Deader than shit. Bug spray for humans. Whatever this was, it was designed to kill humans.
You know what's kind of interesting to me? Even though I don't think that Valentina has ever said that she thought it was nerve gas. Maybe they told her not to say that. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But her behavior at the time that it happened does seem to suggest that she knew that it was something in the area, because she was basically like, I got to get out of this fucking area.
We said she couldn't talk for a while, huh?
Well, that was because of trauma.
Who knows?
Well, maybe.
Maybe that was very, very weak nerve agent poisoning.
Possibly.
And it took her a little while to fucking shake it off. So maybe she did get some.
Yeah, maybe so. I never thought of that.
It was just a real small amount. That's not enough to kill you, you know. And it was just enough to fucking make her brain go slightly haywire. She just kind of withdrew back into kind of a zombie-like state, you know, panic. And then after a while, she kind of snapped out of it.
Because, I mean, she had to have her shit together because she survived all by herself in the wilderness for 4 days before they found her.
Let's say you got a survivable dose of it. The best thing to do is to keep moving, because it's going to fucking filter it out through your kidneys.
Yeah.
Drink water and keep moving. Try to get it out of your system. Sweat it out through your pores.
I mean, the human body can put up with a lot of shit and can survive a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But like you said, these nerve agents are super potent and were specifically designed to kill everyone they came in contact with.
And what you're talking about maybe killed the other ones. Maybe it wouldn't even be a single drop. Like if you were to take a needle and drop it in that fluid, and it's kind of like oil. And if you drop it, so you have a little single drop hanging off the end of that needle, how much I bet it was 1/4 of that got on those people. It might have been 1/4 of that spread out in a mist.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? Little tiny droplets. You can't even see them. Well, that girl might have got 1/10 of that drop.
Yeah.
And she survived. That's how little it takes. It sets up chain reactions and shit. It's made to kill you.
Sanada said, the video I saw said that the Ukrainians found her acting strangely and washing her clothes in the river. So maybe she did get a slight dose.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, they did say she was acting kind of weird. The one thing that I thought was weird was that, like I said, she seemed to have the wherewithal to survive for 4 days by herself. She seemed to know, I got to follow the power lines. And then she gets down there and the village is abandoned. She's like, oh, there's a river, so I'm going to follow the river. So she had her shit together enough for that.
Yeah.
She did hang a shirt or a sleeping bag in a tree because she's like, I want to make like a flag or something like that so people will see it. But then the weird thing is that when the kayakers passed her, she didn't say anything to them, which I thought was kind of odd.
Yeah.
Because she did seem to have her shit together enough to know what to do, like to survive, and she seemed to remember shit. But it was just kind of like, why didn't she be like, hey, can you help me, or whatever? She didn't. They just like passed her, and she just like looked at them.
That might be evidence of
so maybe,
poisoning.
Because I thought that was kind of odd. You would think that she'd be like, unless she just thought that they weren't real.
Well, she was dazed.
That's what I mean. Maybe
it may
she's
have been
just
not
maybe
only the trauma. Maybe it was the chemicals.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of that, but yeah, it's possible she did get like a tiny little. Because it seems crazy that she got nothing.
Yeah, she probably
like
did
something that killed 6 people in minutes like that.
Confused thinking.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine. Like, that poor fucking girl, man. She was only like 17 years old.
Yeah.
And to just like be on a hike and be normal with your friends and stuff like that. And then like a minute later, everyone's bleeding from their fucking eyes and like drop into the ground. Holy shit.
Yeah. She probably did get some.
I couldn't imagine like what that would be like. And then like then they're all dead, and then you have to like fucking survive in the wilderness 4 days by yourself, and you don't know where you are and shit like that. God, that must have been fucking horrifying. I don't really blame her for not wanting to talk about it.
Imagine was it the park rangers or the cops? Who is it that handled it? Cops, probably, right?
Yeah, they went to the
So
police
imagine
station.
the cops probably put that out to the police station. Man, this is some weird shit that happened. Look at this and happened. Those cops were like, yeah, that sounds like nerve agent. And then they might have fucking called the KGB. That's probably who they'd call. Or the local military base. But then they would have sent the KGB. They probably would have called it some kind of secret police, KGB.
Yeah, you'd think.
Saying, man, because those guys are all mostly had military training. They would have recognized nerve agent symptoms.
Yeah, when she started talking, they would have said,
Yeah, they're like, yeah.
hang on a second, we got to make a phone call.
KGB was like, oh, hold on, don't do nothing. We'll be right over. We know what she's talking about. They probably checked the records and go, yeah, they were just testing some of
So I
that
think
shit.
pretty much anybody that knows anything about anything, like in the world, as soon as people started saying convulsing and blood coming from the eyes, everybody's like, oh, nerve gas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like most people would probably
The cops probably would have known what that was. I think almost everybody had a military background in the Soviet police. You know, they did army time. They had to do draft. I don't think everybody got drafted, but they drafted a certain
But
amount.
a lot of people did, though.
Yeah, so they would have known. They would have known. They would have called the Soviet intelligence KGB. It says, this is what this girl's telling us. Maybe some nerve agent. And it says, okay, don't say nothing. We'll be up there. And they probably contacted the local military base and were you guys testing? And they're like, yeah, we were testing just the other day. But okay,
Oopsie.
Yeah, that's not too far from there. All right, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it.
Yeah,
And
they
go
died
back.
of hypothermia
Yeah, hypothermia. That's what happened.
and a heart attack.
Yeah.
Hypothermia and a heart attack. Maybe they thought they could say that the one woman died of a heart attack because she was 41 years old. No, she's ancient. You know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah, Xanada said it's horror movie type stuff. You know what? I'm surprised. Has anybody made a horror movie about this? There is a movie about the
Jacob's Ladder.
What?
Jacob's Ladder.
No, I mean about this specific
Oh,
incident.
not this one. No.
There is a horror movie about the Dyatlov Pass incident. Well, kind of. It's called Devil's Pass, and it's actually not exactly about that. It's about it's kind of found footage, but it's like about a group that goes there to investigate it, and then scary shit happens to them. I have a review of it that I did a while back. It's a pretty okay movie, although it gets a little outlandish toward the end, and I think it's a little disrespectful toward the people that it actually happened to. But
I thought you were talking about, is there any horror movies about the military accidentally poisoning people?
No. I said, is there any horror
there-
movies about this specific
Not this
incident?
particular one. There's
I
another
mean,
movie
unless
called,
it's just on Tubi somewhere.
there's another old movie from the 90s or 80s called Butterfly Effect. Remember that one?
Yeah. I remember that movie.
And it's a weird ass horror movie about this Vietnam veteran coming home to become a mailman, and all kinds of weird shit happens to him.
No, that's Jacob's Ladder.
Jacob's Ladder, that's right, Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah, Butterfly Effect is a totally different
Right,
movie.
Jacob's Ladder. And it turns out
That was from
that
1990.
he's still in Vietnam. He got hit with the damn weaponized.
Spoiler
fucking-
alert. He's dead the whole time.
Doesn't matter. That's an old movie.
I know.
When he got hit with weaponized fucking LSD, they were testing it on the troops. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
High Desert said that movie is really bad. I'm assuming he's talking about the Butterfly Effect.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't even think you've seen the movie The Butterfly Effect.
Probably not. I don't know.
I saw it a long time ago, but
A long
I don't remember that much about it.
I've probably seen it and forgot all about it.
Jacob's Ladder was good though.
Yeah, Jacob's Ladder. That's what
That was from 1990.
Yeah.
Xanada said, this is the same country that tried to cover up a nuclear meltdown, so it's totally plausible. Yeah, I kind of feel like that's what... like I said, I don't think that they sprayed these people with nerve gas on purpose, but I think that as soon as she came and told her story, they knew exactly what it was. They're like, yeah, we're just going to, like, make this disappear. Everyone died of hypothermia.
Yeah, it was an accident.
The end. That's kind of what they did. But, I think that's what that was.
I mean, we accidentally dropped an atomic bomb on the United States.
Yeah.
Remember that? What
We should do a fucking show about that.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Well, it might not be a very long show, but I'm just saying it's kind of an interesting incident, though.
I think it was the Army Air Corps, early U.S. Air Force, were transporting basically like a tall boy or a fat boy, fucking atomic bomb. They had it strapped underneath fucking the belly of a bomber, and they accidentally dropped it. It hit in the middle of nowhere, though.
I'm surprised that only happened one time.
Yeah, they dropped it.
To be honest with you.
And then they went and checked it.
Whoops! Oh,
And it had a bunch of
shit, hit the
safeties
bomb
on
button.
it, but all of the safeties had fucking ruptured except one. Only one safety, fucking kept it from blowing up, and I think it fucking tripped six of them or something. It almost went off.
Which, yeah, that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Xanada said, do a show on military mishaps.
Yeah.
We probably should. That should be fun.
Yeah,
and then
dropping an atomic bomb on the United States.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
It didn't go off, but like I said.
We also lost whole nuclear submarines with all their fucking nuclear missiles. They're sitting down at the bottom of the ocean.
Well,
It
see,
hadn't been
here's
in
the
50s.
thing. It's like
They hid that.
the military, just like everything else in the
Yeah.
world, is run by humans. And have you met humans? They're idiots.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? To varying degrees. So, I mean, you know, they make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. You just go to work one day and you kind of like are not really feeling it and you fuck something up. And you just drop a nuclear bomb on somebody.
Yeah, and it was one of those first generation nuclear submarines. It might have been a Nautilus. I don't know. It might have, or one of her sister ships. It fucked up and got set to the bottom with all hands and all those nuclear weapons. They're sitting down there now, still sitting there, but they're in such deep water you can't get them out.
So we're
Not-
just
not a
gonna
threat
leave
to
that
anybody.
there. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
might have caused a Godzilla situation. We don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, Xana said that has to be the worst way to die, talking about like nerve gas. I mean, the only good thing I can say about it is at least it doesn't last long. But
I think it makes
man, that must be the worst fucking 5 minutes of your fucking life, though.
you get so confused you don't know what's happening. I'm pretty sure.
I would hope. Because I always thought, and maybe not, like I've never been through anything like so traumatic that I had this happen. But a lot of times when you go through something traumatic, your brain just kind of shuts down. Because a lot of people I've known that have been through like real bad, you know, like traumas, like natural disasters or really bad like car wrecks or something like that, they said, well, they don't even remember it happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I just remember a few minutes before, and then I remember waking up in the hospital. They don't like remember anything happening. So I was like, maybe your brain has a thing where it's just kind of like, I'm just gonna take that out of there, just like help you out a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah, the military mishaps. Jen said it would be at least 2 shows. It might. I might have to like pick some good cases though. That might be a fun. That might be a fun show to do. We'll kind of pick up. Well, I don't know. It might be kind of depressing too. But like I said, the one where they accidentally dropped the bomb, at least the bomb didn't go off and nobody got killed, right?
Yeah, no.
So
It almost went off.
that's just well, yeah,
But had it gone off, I don't think anybody had been killed either.
because it was happened to be in an area where
Yeah,
there
it was
were-
out in the middle of nowhere.
so it was just like
Yeah.
you know what I mean, rather than oh my god, like the worst thing ever, you know what I mean? But that's the thing. Only in hindsight can we say it's like, oh, it's not. It's just kind of funny.
I'm sure there's a lot of shit that's even much worse than that's happened. We'll never.
Oh,
know.
I imagine. I
never know
imagine
about
so. Because, you know, they've done, like, a lot of fucked up experimentation and stuff like that, too. Although, maybe that should be a separate show. Because we've done a show, like, on Mad Science. I want to do another Mad Science show. Because there was a lot of shit we left off about that, like, weird military experiments and shit like that. But, I don't know. We'll get into that. So, are you... Janet Pyre said, Tom, are nerve agents like Agent Orange?
No,
In
Agent
Vietnam.
Orange is a defoliant.
Yeah.
It was to kill. Okay, Roundup, what you have today.
Yeah, it killed
It's
plants,
Yeah, just
essentially.
killed plants. They were just trying to defoliate Vietnam or certain strips of it. That way you could see where the trails were, where they were fucking transporting weapons and walking. They were trying to open it up so they could see it. And they would hit it with Agent Orange, try to bust all that shit down. The thing is they didn't know it at the time. It was carcinogenic.
Yeah.
And it did DNA damage in men, and a lot of them had mentally retarded children, fucked up children after that. They were
Yeah,
exposed
so it
to
didn't kill them. It wasn't like a nerve gas.
Yeah.
Because it was just meant as a defoliant, but it had like lingering
Yeah, it
effects
had lingering effects.
that they didn't know about,
They didn't
or
know.
they said they didn't know about.
I don't think they knew. I don't
Ahead
think
of
they knew
time.
about it. Now, Roundup is, I think, the same thing. It's just a slightly different version that they claim is safer.
Yeah, the shit you spray on.
But there
your
were some
weeds.
guys they had one of these guys from fucking Dow Chemicals or whatever who made that shit. And there were some lawyers there. They were fighting it. And they were trying to get that shit banned. And the guys said, no, it's fully safe. It's totally safe. And they said, you could drink that and it'd be okay. And they poured a big...
Don't tell anybody
dude,
that.
dude poured a glass of that shit into a fucking... and handed it to him and says, well, drink it then. And he wouldn't drink it. He says, if it's safe, drink it. He's like, no, I ain't gonna drink it.
Yeah, he's like, no.
But it's, atrazine, I guess is what it's called.
Yeah, Janet said my cousin died from it years after he got back.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I mean. But it's not a nerve agent in the same way, because a nerve agent is basically meant to, like, kill people immediately.
And animals.
You know?
It'll kill any mammal.
Like I said, I'm not saying Agent Orange is great, because it had, like, lingering effects that they supposedly didn't know about ahead of time, but it wasn't intended to kill people. That wasn't its function.
No, it's supposed to be harmless. You know, they were walking in it. They'd go into those defoliated areas after they'd been hit with Agent Orange, and they were, you know, doing patrols in there and fucking bedding down and sleeping in the defoliated areas. And it had fucking, you know, basically industrial strength Roundup, basically what it was. But it bad for you. But it was worse for your children. You know, that's really who did a lot of genetic damage on them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, the shitty thing about a lot of those chemicals that came out back then is that a lot of the worst effects of it were in the next generation. Like, it wouldn't necessarily do anything to you, or it might, but not until years later. So they didn't really test for that.
Yeah.
And they for sure did not test for, like, shit that would cause birth defects and stuff like that.
That's basically what it caused.
Because look at all that stuff. What was that stuff that used to be
thalidomide?
Thalidomide. That's what I was thinking.
Thalidomide.
Like that was supposedly safe.
Drug.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they gave it to pregnant women for morning sickness, but it they didn't know until later. They don't give it to people anymore, obviously, but they used to, and it caused like birth defects.
It is the default setting. Do not trust these. Do not trust the medical companies or chemical companies or anything like that. Fucking trust them. They were just trying to get huge contracts, make a shit ton of money, in the military industrial complex. Maybe on paper they knew, yeah, this is probably pretty low risk. This shouldn't hurt you, but they weren't willing to drink glasses of it when they said it'd be safe. No, genetic damage and shit. Fuck you up later. Fucked up your children. In terms of Agent Orange. Yeah. I don't trust them.
And that's what I mean.
They're just trying to make money, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Even if they didn't intend to like kill people, they were like, well, we did test for some shit. But like I said, they're going to test for like immediate shit. Does it kill anybody immediately? No, it's probably fine then. But like I said, they don't really... They're not going to do like a fucking 50-year longitudinal study where it's like, oh, well, does it cause birth defects in the next generation or something? And that's what a lot that things did.
They say, well, it didn't on the damn tsetse flies that we tested on. It didn't do anything to, the rats.
Right.
But, rats don't live that long anyway. What happens to a person who lives, nearly 70, 80 years? What does it do to them? So I just...
They're like, we don't have the money for these fucking 50-year studies, you know what I mean?
They're all big corporations, and the most important thing for them is what it looks like on the fucking next quarter sheet. On their sales and earnings sheet. That's all they care about. Yeah, they don't want to get sued. They'll probably take something like that Agent Orange molecule, whatever, or whatever. I don't know if it might have been a compound of many molecules. They probably looked at that and they go, do you think that hurt? They'd probably ask a few doctors, do you think that molecule would hurt a human? And they'd probably, no, I shouldn't. That's probably...
Shouldn't.
Shouldn't. Yeah, it should be okay.
It should be okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. Xana said there's an ongoing case right now about whether Roundup causes cancer and autism.
I think it turns the frogs gay. You heard about that?
Yeah.
It doesn't turn them gay, though. It makes them transsexual, basically.
More hermaphroditic.
Yeah, it got more hermaphroditic, and then the males start trying to mate with other males. It's atrazine. People spraying Roundup, and then the water runs off. It goes into pools and ponds where frogs live, and it fucks up their breeding cycle.
That sounds like a 70s eco-horror waiting to happen. Well, they made something like that.
Does weird shit to
Prophecy
fish, too.
was about that.
And here's another thing is that all the hormonal birth control women are taking, that's ended up in the water table, which can do things to people and animals. Because there's kind of like estrogen mimicker type stuff that's happening in there, and other weird chemicals. Everything you eat, all this medicine that you take ends up somewhere in the damn septic sewage systems, and then eventually back into water tables. So you got to be careful with everything.
I mean, you do, but it's like, in a way, I'm kind of like, yeah, I kind of worry about it. But then in another way, I'm like, yeah, but like 100 years ago, they were like drinking sewage water.
Yeah,
because
it's
they
still a
didn't
lot
know
better
any
than it was
better.
100 years ago. Yeah.
So it's like, it's probably
And the
fine.
thing is with the birth control runoff, probably only a factor outside really big cities. In a sparsely populated area like this, there's not going to be enough women peeing in the area.
There's not enough women
for
peeing
it to
in the
fucking
area.
make a difference to get a dose into somebody, you know.
Like I said, I don't know.
It's going to be big. And it might only be theoretical. Like, theoretically, all the sewage coming out of that city should have X and X amount of chemicals because of the birth control and then the cleaning solutions and then, you know, fucking motor oils. There's a certain amount of motor oil is going to be in there. You know, there's all kinds of weird shit. But it may not actually make its way back into the human population. It might go out to sea, or it might end up being cycled down in a place you don't realize. So it may not actually be affecting people when it could. But it's just not. It's not. The runoff isn't getting to them. I don't know.
Because that's the thing. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of shit like in our air and water and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But it's just kind of like it's probably so diluted
Yeah,
that
by the time you get to it.
I mean, there really have to be a large concentration
Yeah.
of it in one small area to like really affect people.
Yeah.
And even if it does, I kind of feel like it probably takes a really long time, like so
Yeah.
long that you probably wouldn't even be able to prove the
Prove that it's
connection.
happening, yeah.
Like if you had to. Like I said, it's a different thing where, you know, there's obviously one area where some gas was released and everybody got sick, like obviously, but just stuff like regular water and shit like that, you know, as long as you probably filter it and you'll probably be fine. Listen, honestly, I've been drinking just regular ass tap water my whole life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, we filter it now, but I never used to. I never used to bother. I used to just drink it right out of the fucking sink.
And if you were to ask me, is Roundup safe?
And I'm fine.
If you were to ask me if Roundup was safe, I'd say probably not. But I'm not drinking out of my lawn,
True.
you know. And I'm at a point in life where I don't think it would affect my lifespan. I'm not using it every day.
Yeah.
Now, if you were working on a lawn crew and you were young and you did 30 years on a lawn
Yeah,
crew,
then
but
you might
then you probably
then
have
you might want to
problems.
worry because it's
Yeah.
like have the length of exposure, how
Right.
much exposure you're getting to it, stuff like that. Like I said, just drinking out of a fucking faucet and shit like that, I don't think that's gonna affect you too badly. Like I said, I've done it my whole life and I'm fine, but it's just kind of like depends where you live too.
Yeah.
I have lived in other areas where I drank out of the faucet and it tasted really gross, so I didn't. So I just drank bottled water instead. But most of the time it's fine. You know? I don't know. I don't worry about it all that much. Like I said, we're not drinking poop water anymore, at least, like they were back in the fucking day.
Or eel water.
Yeah.
Eels would die in the damn fucking pipes and
Right.
rot in the pipes, and people
then
would
people
drink
would
the
be
water
drinking.
like, man, it tastes funny. And then I think that was Chicago where that was happening in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And they found out that, there was millions and millions of eels living in the fucking water system, and they were dying and rotting inside the damn pipes, and people were just steady drinking.
Whatever.
Water
This tastes
terrible.
pretty gross. Like,
Yeah.
but it's water. We still gotta
Yeah.
drink it.
Because the
You
system
can see
didn't,
why they drank
they
beer
didn't
instead
have,
back
they
then.
had no filtration. They would just take fucking fresh water and pour it into the system,
Sure.
and big objects the size of fucking eels could get in it. They didn't filter anything. Dumb. But they didn't know what they were doing.
They didn't know any better.
They didn't know how to build water systems back then.
Like I said, they would like fucking.
Yeah.
They had like pools of waste.
Yeah.
Like human waste.
just sitting around.
Just sitting around, and it's like
Yeah.
they somehow didn't see a problem with that. Why
Yeah.
is everybody getting sick? Gee, I
Yeah.
wonder. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, why do you think nature made that smell like that? Because they were just kind of like, yeah, you might want to like move away, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, Xana said the worst water to drink would be if you were in that hotel where Elisa Lam died. Yeah, and I think some people did too.
They were drinking. They tasted it. They said it was terrible.
Yeah, and it's like then later they found out there was a fucking dead body in the water
corpse
tank.
water.
Ugh,
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I would just like, man, I would brush my teeth for like fucking 48 hours straight, and I would still like want to throw
Some
up.
cute little dead Chinese girl floating in the damn water. Oh man.
God, can you
Her
imagine?
rotten
We were
ass.
grossed out by like our ice machine
Yeah.
broke, and then Tom said, "Oh, I was cleaning it, and I found a gnat in there. We've been drinking gnat ice," and I was
Yeah.
just kind of like, "Eh,"
Yeah.
but you know, it's like I don't care. It's a gnat. It's tiny,
Yeah.
but yeah. So that doesn't gross me out at all. But like the fact of like fucking a corpse floating in the water. Oh my
Yeah.
god, I can't imagine. James said he's heading out. Good night. Yeah, we're about to wrap it up as well because it's been about
Yeah.
10 o'clock, and we've kind of gone through the case.
Yep.
But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This was, like I said, this was a topic I did not know about previously. So thank you very much, Xanada, for, I think it was Xanada that recommended it, because I'd never heard of it before. And it's super weird. And like weirder than Dyatlov, like I said, because I'm pretty sure Dyatlov was just like an avalanche type situation. But yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm probably, don't hold me to this, but I'm probably going to do a stream tomorrow about a Christmas horror film. I'm actually going to do Christmas Bloody Christmas, because I've already watched that and written up a thing about it and everything like that. So I'm probably going to stream that sometime tomorrow afternoon. And I might do another Christmas movie that I might stream about on Sunday. I'm not entirely sure, because I haven't decided and I haven't watched it yet, but I might do one tomorrow. If I don't do it tomorrow, then I'll save that one till Sunday, but we'll see how it goes. Xanada said, thanks for covering this, Jenny. I knew you'd do a detailed analysis of it. Yeah, like I said, I got super into it. I went down a rabbit hole. Like, I watched like 7 different documentaries about it and like read all these different like articles about it and shit like that, and just
It looked like accidental nerve agent poisoning.
That's what I thought too. I thought that's kind of also the theory that I subscribe to. I think that's exactly what happened, and I think there was like a little bit of a cover up. Danny Rowling said, "Cough cough to all a good night." I might actually do that one. I think it might be on Shudder. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'll have to look. I thought I saw it on there, but that might be another. That was another one that I was considering doing, so I might do that one too. But we'll see. So yeah, thanks everybody for dropping by this evening. Thanks for super chats. And I might see you guys again tomorrow, but we will both see you again on Friday night for the Sidetrack show, which will always be fun. So hopefully you guys can come for that. And good night.